Okay, it's 6 p.m. and I am calling to order the City Council regular meeting Wednesday, September 4th, 2019, again at 6 p.m. All council are present. Please stand and join me in the pledges. Moving on to item number 4, city employee recognitions and employee introductions. Number 4, Ms. Kane.
This month, we have several thank yous and letter of appreciations on our agenda. The first one comes from Mr. Martinez, and it is directed towards Officer Temke and the Bracken Fire Department, thanking both of them for responding to a medical emergency at his residence. There's so many of them, I'm having to... There was another thank you note from Danielle Rebecca Shive Plant, thanking Officer McKay. Then we have another one from Linda Potts to the public, thanking the Public Works Department for the work that they did at Park Lane Park. A variety of different things, mowing, trimming, pressure washing, and fixing a water fountain. Then we have a letter of appreciation from Joe Halteman to Chief Eberhardt for Chief Eberhardt's assistance in helping him clear limbs and debris that was brought forth by the storm on Father's Day. Then we have a thank you to Officer Sergeant Osborne from Councilwoman Bauer, thanking him for responding to a concern about a solicitor in her neighborhood and how smoothly and supportive he was. Then we have a thank you from Councilman Bauer to Water Department employee Dwayne Scognio for a dog call for a dog that was loose in Paul Davis Park a couple of Saturdays ago, or Sundays ago, I'm sorry.
Okay, ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it when folks call out our staff and employees. All of us up here know how much they do for the city and for all of us, so we really appreciate that. Okay, next up is item number 5, citizen comment period. I have a couple of people that signed up. I don't recognize either one of these as people that have spoke before, and there's a few people in the audience that may not have seen this before, so I feel compelled to explain a few things. By the law, if somebody's coming up here and speaking, they're not going to get a response from council. The only response that we'll offer is that we could put what they're talking about on an agenda item in the future. But and to be fair to anybody that's not here, the topic's not on the agenda, if somebody was to come up and speak to something and then we all decided we were going to talk about it, then they wouldn't have the opportunity to hear us speak about it. So that's the reason why the law is written that way. So that said, you won't get, it's kind of weird. It's a one-way conversation. You speak, we listen. You'll see us looking down writing. We're not ignoring you, I guarantee that. And you have 3 minutes. When you come up, name and address do not count for your 3 minutes. There is also another citizen comment period at the end of our council meeting, and you can come up again and speak as long as it's not about the same topic. So, and the reason why there's 2 is, one is because you may see something on the agenda, or there's just something you want to talk about, and and as a citizen we want to hear that. And then at the end, it's a 2-minute period, and it may be because you heard something during the council meeting that you want to make a comment about right then and there. So that said, I have 2 people. First one is Teresa Anderson. Please come on up.
My name's Teresa Anderson. My address is 21303 LaGoria Drive in the enclave of Garden Ridge. My husband and I have always wanted to move out to Garden Ridge. We grew up in Schertz. We moved out here 8 years ago, have loved living out here. Today I received my water bill. It was atrocious. And I guess my question to the council would be, number one, I looked at the rates today, and my bad, my husband and I did not read the thing last month that showed the new rates. So I looked at the rates today and I thought they were pretty aggressive, especially when you start getting over a certain amount of gallons of water. My question would be, what is the average use that you as a council think that we as homeowners should be using? We live on 3/4 of an acre, which is something that Garden Ridge has, a policy of. We own nice homes. We have nice landscaping. We don't want our landscaping to just die, so we need to keep it alive. I can't imagine driving through Garden Ridge and everybody's yard looks like dead. There's got to be something that we can do together to figure out how much water are we allowed to use where it's not going to cost, a bunch of money. 26 comments were made on the Garden Ridge, Moms of Garden Ridge. 26 people gave how much their bill was. Out of the 26 people, that came out to $26,537, which I think, okay, how many other people have this spike? How much are y'all getting this month with these overages? There's got to be a way that we as homeowners can water our property. And I know we must have been excessive last month, because my bill last month was $170 and this month it's $718. I can't see living out here and paying $700 a month of water to keep our yard alive. So anyway, I want to know I want to know what the average person in Garden Ridge, what is the average gallons that they use? I heard Mr. Thompson make a comment that some people use more than he does in 2 years. I'd like to see your yard. I'd like to see what you're doing. Give us some suggestions on how to keep our home, keep our yards, and not have to pay extravagant fees to use water in our community. And what's your goal for Garden Ridge? What do you want it to look like? Do you want it to look like this big dead area in these months? It's just sad to me. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Second person I have on the list is Billy Chamberlain.
Yeah, my name is Billy Chamberlain. I lived at 8810 Comanche Path in Garden Ridge, Texas. I'm not used to being on the other side of this podium. I was chairman of the San Antonio Electric Board, either chair or vice chair, for like 12 years. Anyway, I live at 8810 Comanche Path. I'm the only adjacent property in Garden Ridge to that new Blackwell Insurance group that's building there. And I've heard that they're asking for variances, and I would like to keep the city codes and ordinances upheld. They are there to protect the citizens and our property value. I heard one was an alleyway, one was less shrubs and more parking lot, which would put them right on top of my property and take my property value down too. I do not want a parking lot and tons of asphalt right adjacent to my property. And they would be way too close to my property. Not enough trees, brush, or grass that would separate us from them to the new building. So, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Those are the only two people I had signed up, so now moving on to item number 6, the consent agenda. And these items can be acted upon in a single motion, or anything can be removed, pulled, and singled out. So looking from council for either anything to be pulled or a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move to approve.
Mike, please.
Move to approve.
Okay, so I have place 1 with a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second from place 2. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to staff reports. First staff report is City Administrator, Ms. Kane.
I have nothing additional to add to my reports.
Starting on the right side, any questions for City Administrator from her report? Mike?
I just wanted to verify that there were 15 new homes. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I-
There, it will be in the Woods, Unit 3.
oh, okay. I was just curious. I thought, is that cumulative from the beginning of the year? But
No, that's
that's
since the last
incredible.
council meeting, or since the first of this month.
Ma'am? Sir? Sir? Ma'am?
No.
Okay, and, barring anything else for City Administrator, next is Police Department. Chief?
Thank you. Everything's on there. I would like to highlight two points on here further down on our outreach efforts. I'd like to remind everybody that National Night Out is coming. It's coming fast. It'll be here on October 1st, Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday in October. It's a nice function for everybody, family-oriented. We have a lot to do. I'd like to remind everybody to come on out. And also, our next Pizza with the Police is the 17th of September, 6 o'clock right here in this room. Anybody that wants to come up, meet any of the officers, has anything they'd like to discuss, have them come on up, have dinner with us. We'll introduce ourselves and get to know them a little bit better. Something else I wanted to throw out today that popped up, I just want to remind everybody that the census is underway. We have had some communication from them, and would like to remind everybody that it is in our best interest for everybody to cooperate with the census folks. We do need an accurate count on our population, so if we could help get that word out, that would help us a lot. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Starting on the left side, comments, questions for the chief?
Just relevant to what, I believe Ms. Spencer posted online for the benefit of others to identify these census takers. And I think that's really helpful. We printed it out, so, because I'm sure there are going to be scammers as well. But there's a number of things to watch for when they do approach you. And I think that's pretty helpful that we did that.
Thank you. Sir? Sir?
Chief, I hate to bring this up, but what is an altered inspection insignia? You had a write-up for one of those.
Just what it says, that's where they actually remove it, alter the dates on it, on the registration, and put it back on the vehicle to show that
Really?
it's currently registered when it is not.
That's amazing. And with a black magic marker or something?
You know, I've seen them cut out numbers and use those little plastic sticky numbers you buy at hobby shops and put them on there. There's all kinds of ways they try that.
My God. Okay, thank you.
Ma'am? Sir? Chief, I don't want to put you on the spot because I should have asked you before, but I forgot. For those of you that were at Pizza with the Police last time, another thing that was great was had some activity for kids and stuff. And so you come in there, you get pizza, the kids get to play and everything. Are we going to be doing the same thing again?
Yes, sir, we will.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it's not just for adults to come in and get some pizza, but it was a lot of fun, and a lot of kids were having fun last time.
We'll
so
keep the young ones occupied.
Great. Thank you very much. Next up is Public Works, Mr. Steinmetz.
Good evening. First off, we have installed a 100-foot chain link fence on the drainage easement on Sumac Circle. All we have left on that to do is just grade from the, if you can see up there, that's the front view of the drainage right there. And that back area, if you can see in the back there, that's 3009. Basically, we've got to re-clean and grade and remove that fence right there, and that project will be finished. We should have it finished in the next 2 to 3 weeks, which one of our equipment's out right now being repaired. Currently, we have no dogs or cats currently. And the 20 skylight panels in the community center have been replaced. Any questions?
So, yeah, that was one more piece of our CIP to work the skylights because we didn't want some storm to knock them out because they were getting old and brittle. So thanks a lot for making sure that was going to happen too. So comments, questions for Public Works? Right side. Ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you.
Water Department. Mr. Parsons. Is your mic on?
Hello? Thank you. I just want to point out a few things. As opposed to last year to this year, we have actually used right under 8 million more gallons than last year. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then if you turn to the back, the third page.
Speak up a little bit for me.
I apologize.
Just pull the mic closer to you. You can't. Go ahead.
Just wanted to let everyone know that our lead and copper sampling, we've finished that. We've turned in our paperwork to TCEQ. We're waiting back to hear back from them. We had a SCADA training and software updates, and that has been completed. And then we also had a motor that we installed at 2252. That's finished. And then finally, I just wanted to address, there's been a lot of concerned citizens with the water usage that we've had. And the water department, we've gone out and we've been checking all the water meters. And we found that the water meters are accurate. The water usage is actually being used. The billing software is accurate as far as what we're billing. And then there's some data that the mayor would like to speak about. I'd like for the mayor to speak about.
Yeah, we've been talking about this, so I just want to, if you heard from one person tonight about this, but also social media, we've getting phone calls, emails about water bills and water usage. And, our attitude has been, number one, make sure that we're not doing anything wrong. Make sure that our water meters are working. So anybody that's calling, we're going out, we're checking the water meters. We're also running reports off the water meters, which tells us when the usage is. And so you can see that the usage is, at certain times of the day, every day, it's clearly irrigation. And the next thing we wanted to do was make sure, excuse me, that our software was correct, that we weren't miscalculating and, putting the wrong rates in, or, because you know how it is, you're kind of at the mercy of the coders. Sometimes when you're doing that, you want to make sure the thing was coded right. So we went through and checked and made sure that all that was good, because those are two things that I was concerned about. I wanted to make sure that we were doing this the right way. The third thing is just the usage itself, make sure that it was logical usage. And our front office and our assistant city secretary, who's still helping with water clerk, and our water clerk spend a lot of time in between phone calls and people coming to the window and did some analysis. And I've got one list that's roughly 25 long, of people that have used over 100,000 gallons in the month of July, over 100,000 gallons. And you heard somebody say that I made the comment that it would take me a couple of years to use that much. And it's true. And then the other one is one that are just under or at or under 100,000. And there's 9 pages, and each one of them has about 8 or 9 people on it. And what they did was they looked and said, okay, so last year, did they use about the same amount of water? And they did. The difference being, of course, that now that there's a rate increase. So there are very few on here that there's a big, huge jump from one year to the next in the same month for water usage. And that was another thing. We just wanted to make sure this was logical, that people typically using 100,000 gallons, in a month. In the month of July, we're using 100,000 gallons the year before, and there's a lot of that. Not all of it, and there could be some issues, just like there always are, and we're always, not only are we open to taking a look at it, but remember, you, the council, approved the ability for people to ask for leak adjustments, leak analysis, and leak adjustments. So if somebody has some kind of issue, they have that avenue available to them. The other thing that we did was we looked and we looked at the rates, and something jumped out at us when we looked at it. And when you approved the rates last month, was it last month? 2 months ago, 2 months ago, and we had been talking about this for 3 months and discussing the rates. When you approve the rates, when you look at this chart, you see where it says 2019 current rate, and you see 2020 staff proposed rate. And that staff proposed rate is the rate that you approved, and it went into the ordinance, and that's what the rates are. The problem, small, very small problem, but problem nonetheless, that I need to call out, is that in that column that says current rate, that wasn't the current rate. What that rate was what we called the year one rate. If you recall, when Water Markets did the analysis, when the Water Commission did the analysis and did the recommendation, and staff also did that, everybody unanimously said that instead of doing a rate increase and then a year later doing another rate increase, to just go with the rate two, or the year two rate increase, which is what you see under the 2020 categories on this slide. The problem is that 2019 numbers should have reflected the actual current numbers. Somehow, we put in the year one numbers. The reason I bring this up is because it makes it look like there was less of a jump in the rates. Now, first of all, the rate jumps really start happening when people are using in the 50 to 60,000 gallons. Remember, if somebody's using 5,000 gallons, they're just washing their dishes and they're not watering their yard or anything, and remember, that was one thing that was really important to us, was we didn't want to price somebody out of the market because they're long-term family that, doesn't really water grass anymore. They've got xeriscape and everything else, and all of a sudden they get a huge bill. Remember, that bill is only going to be a couple dollars, literally a couple dollars more. And then somebody that's like me that does water the grass to keep it alive until it starts raining again, my bill went up $60. But somebody that wants to, and they have the option to, water at 100,000 gallons a month, their bill will be quite large, and that's what some people have discovered with this bill. Some people are surprised by that. I can tell you I understand why, because they're busy and they're not watching, but this has been a discussion for water rate increase for over a year, water rate specifically for the last 6 months through the Water Commission, and then, of course, with you, this body, for the last 3 to 4 months. The reason I bring this up is because it's obviously a hot topic. It's something that's part of Mr. Parsons' report, but also because I wanted to make sure that you knew that if you look at, and you have these sheets in front of you as well, I thought you did, that if you look, the actual 2019, the existing rates were not what you see there under the 2019 current rates, but they were significantly lower. Put another way, if you made a decision looking at it saying, well, it's only going to go up a couple bucks for somebody that's using 100,000 gallons, that's not fact. It went up significantly more than that. And I thought it was appropriate to make sure that full disclosure, that you made a decision based on information that wasn't entirely accurate. Now, that said, you made a decision also, I believe, based on, we said we needed to have these rates for the health of the water company and the future health of the water company. They were based on the Water Commission's recommendation, as well as the water rate study that was done by Water Markets that showed us to service the debt and do everything else we needed to do that. So I'm not calling into question the decision. I'm just making sure that I fully disclose that as staff, we didn't give you the proper numbers for 2019. So that said, you can't make any decisions right now, except for one, and that is that if you would like to revisit this, if you feel the need to revisit this, we could set up at your earliest convenience, a special council meeting to peel this back. I will tell you that I believe the result will be we still need to raise the rates, and we still should consider all of the recommendations from everybody from the water rate study through staff. But nevertheless, I am compelled to let you know that the numbers under that 2019 were what were called year one rates, not the other rates. And they're not showing up here. Do you have that? Can you put that up there? It's not up there? Okay, it's in front of you, where it says, if you look at this piece of paper here, You have it in front of you? Where it says current ladder, those numbers should have been where 2019 current rate are. Now, legally, we can't have a discussion about this right now. So if you want to have a discussion about this, or you're uncomfortable with what your decision was, I'll offer up that we will set up a special council meeting. If you are comfortable with the decision, it ends here. And we just move forward. And these are the rates that everybody recommended to begin with. Some people that have used a lot of water are not necessarily excited about this, and I get that. But, you know, there's we talked about this in council, a couple of council meetings ago, that the average water rate, water usage was in the 30 to 40,000 was what it was, 30 to 40,000 gallons. So, you know, the people that are on these lists that I have here are certainly the outliers. When you got a bill this big, you're a very, very loud outlier, understandably so, but you still are the outlier, and we have a lot of people whose rates or whose bills either went up a couple of dollars or went up, 10, 20, 30, in my case, 50-something dollars, almost $60. So if it's the will of the council, we'll set up another meeting, a special council meeting at your earliest convenience, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever, or we'll press on to the next item on the agenda. So I'll just look around and see if anybody's got anything to say about this. And it's not about the topic. We can't discuss it necessarily, other than if you have questions for the water manager on this. But do you anybody feel compelled to have another meeting on this? Thoughts? Anyone? Go ahead, sir.
Not right now, I don't. If we go into water restrictions, we're going to need these rates. We're going to need the extra cost to keep the amount of pumping down to a reasonable level if in fact we do it in water restrictions. I have, over the years, run a sprinkler system once a week during a drought like this, and keeping the pool topped off where it should be, averaged about 10,000 gallons a week, which is about 40,000 gallons a month. This time, I don't know why I was letting it run twice a week, but I got 66,000 gallons of water use, and I have never done that before. And the bill was shocking. It has been paid, but I did cut that down to one time a week now instead of twice a week, and that's, I don't know what we can do about our landscaping. Most of the grass goes dormant and comes back as soon as we have a decent rain. So, if you get out there and hand water your bushes, the plants, whatever, that might be what's necessary. We can't have beautiful yards in a drought situation, not in South Texas. So,
Yeah, I'm not sure of the date, but I know the last time it rained was somewhere in June. It's gotten pretty severe. Any other comments or questions or feelings on it? Do we need to have another meeting?
I'm on the fence about another meeting. I do have some concerns about some of the big leaps towards the end here, from the current ladder jumping over to where we ended up on year 2, like at the 95,000 gallon. I mean, again, those are I guess my feeling neutral about another meeting is those are the outlier numbers. I mean, to be using 95,000 gallons is not the norm. So I guess that's where I'm on the fence there.
Yes, ma'am, and keep in mind, that was a goal of the water rate study, and the water rate change was also, instead of mandating you cannot
Right.
use any water.
Right.
We constructed this that if you want to use it, you just have to go eyes wide open, and it's going to cost you
Right,
a lot
sure.
of money to do it.
Right.
Which, by the way, our rates are still lower than a lot
Oh,
of the
I know
cities
they
around
are.
here.
I know they are.
But-
I've looked at that study.
But so, I wrote about it publicly as well, that these rates, water rates, water markets talked about it and put it into their study. The Water Commission talked about it, and then we've talked about it, that this is to encourage conservation. And, 40,000 gallons is an average rate, average usage, and the rate didn't go up very much.
Right.
But if you decide that you need to use 100,000 gallons,
Right.
eyes wide open, it's going to cost you a lot of
Yeah,
money to do it.
but looking at this chart, I can see why it's a jolt for a lot of people.
Understand.
I can see
Yeah.
that.
Anyone else have any comments?
Mayor, I'll back up what you were just saying. Back several years ago, when we were in water restrictions, we had a number of residents, not a lot of residents, that literally didn't care what their bill was. They were going to have a nice yard no matter what. And their usage was up well above 100,000 gallons a month, and they really didn't care. What we see here is a result of what took place back then, and now we have rates where they should be for that abusive use of water.
And actually, one thing that I want to be clear about, the intention is not to make the rates at the high end punitive. They're not punitive. But what we did was we deliberately kept the low end rates low, that if you have, you know, the older folks that are retired, they're on a fixed income and they're not watering their grass, we didn't want to price them out. So we deliberately kept the low end very low, knowing full well that some people will make the decision that they want to water their grass and they're gonna be willing to put more into it. So it's never been the intention of any of the people in the chain of events leading up to the decision that you made to make it punitive. It's not punitive. It's just, it's America. It's your decision. You want to water a lot, you're going to pay for it. And that will fund not only the expenses, but the investment in the future in what I will tell you without a doubt is an enviable water system in this area. So, and we need to continue that. You know, the sourcing as well as all of the other factors in our water are enviable, and that's how we do it, by making sure that we encourage conservation, but allow people to, you know, if somebody wants to water 100,000 gallons and they're going to pay for it. My feeling is they've invested in the infrastructure and all of the things involving this company, and they have the right to do it. And I'm not going to tell them not to, as long as we actually do have the ability to provide for them what they want. Anybody else?
Yes, I'd like to go back. I do appreciate it, and I would recommend anyone that has a concern and understand they're doing it, citizens are doing it. We had a kind of a rough water bill last month, and Jacob sent the guys out or did a history for me, and we found we had a glitch in our sprinkler system, which was a considerable help. We called somebody out. Now, I will say it's higher this month, so we're still trying to figure out what's going on. But I would like to maintain the value of the property as well. Things you can do, you can put those solar rings and so on your pool. They really, really help. Or go buy everything left at Dollar Tree or Dollar General and pop those little kiddie pools and float them around. It's kind of attractive. And it does help with water evaporation. But having said that, I am trying very hard, but my bill is very high, and it was a bit of a shock. And I don't think I'm being spendthrift. I'm just trying to work it out and figure out, because there's just two of us. And I know why we had high water bills before, personally, I mean. But I'm still trying to figure it out, because it is, aside from the increased rate, our usage has gone up again, and I don't personally understand that. So I do appreciate Jacob and his department helping us try to pinpoint the problem. Thank you.
Thoughts, anything? Yeah, you know, another perspective that I've been telling some people that I'd like council to keep in mind. In the winter, Mr. Parsons, tell them what we deliver to the city in an average winter day for water, to the entire city.
In the month of December, January, February, it was right, for the city, for those months, it was right at 12 million gallons, 13 million gallons.
Per month? No, it isn't. We'd run out of water if it was 12 million gallons a month.
I apologize, what was your question again?
Per month.
Per month.
In the winter, how much do we deliver to our customers, total? To be fair, I've been doing this longer than him in the city, so I'll tell you that, that it's somewhere between 600,000 and 700,000 gallons in a month in the winter when basically nobody's watering. So perspective, that's, you know, 6 of these people that are watering 100,000 gallons. We don't deliver that much water when we're not watering the grass. And last year, we were, during the summer, when we were getting some water and we weren't quite as dry as we are right now, we were hovering around 1.2 to 1.4 million gallons a day, excuse me.
Correct.
And now what we have is 10 people are using what we were using in the summer in a day. They're using it, they're just those 6 people, or 6 to 8 people are using it. And I think that there's a perspective there that that's a lot of water. 100,000 gallons is a lot of water. And when you have, how many pages is this? It's like 15 pages of people that are right over, near or over 100,000. That's a lot of water. And again, that's their prerogative if they want to do it. So I just wanted to kind of give you that perspective that, so 10 million in a month is yeah.
Yes.
And so, again, we're back to, this is not a vote, this is a consensus. Do you want to have a special meeting next month to look at this, or are you satisfied with the decision that you made that's been implemented? Thoughts?
No, we don't need another meeting.
Anyone else? Anybody?
No, with respect to the research that was already done.
Okay. All right. So consensus is no meeting. We'll press on. Okay. I will say that the water folks are doing double overtime because we've had so many people that they're going out and checking meters and checking to make sure that that the usage is legitimate and is proper. And I appreciate that because if they weren't doing that, they could do all the other things that they need to do to ensure that we have available, clean, safe water, and we're doing all the inspections and all the reporting that we need to do. So thank you. Please pass on to your folks that we appreciate that. There's going to be some work ahead because I know some of these folks will do some leak adjustment requests because their usage did go up from last August to this August, and they probably are interested in trying to figure out why. But that's what we do here, is we help them as much as we can to have visibility, as Councilwoman Bauer said, visibility into why they're using so much water and what we can do to help. We also have some stuff on the website and Texas Ag folks and lots of other people. Conserving water in South Central Texas is not something that's foreign to a lot of people. So there's a lot of resources out there to be able to have a yard that looks good and yet doesn't consume 100,000 gallons. So we have a lot available to us, and we will, if anybody has any tips, send them our way for anything else that we can put on the site to point anybody else in any other directions. I personally will tell you I converted to rock and to mulch beds and some other stuff to get rid of some grass as well. And I'm letting my grass in the back die right now until we get some rain or it cools off. Anybody have anything else for this? Right side, left side. Again, very, very, very hard work and analysis on the water department, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Library, ma'am.
Hi, I have just a couple of things to add to my report. We're excited that Garden Ridge Elementary invited us to meet the teacher night last week, so we got to go over, and we filled all our program slots except for the Prenda Coding Club. And that's actually for ages 10 and up. So that emboldened us to ask Danville Middle School if we could go there next week. And Julie Cronkite was so gracious, she almost immediately said, absolutely. So we'll be going there, and I hope we fill up the Prenda Coding slots that we have. You'll hear a little more next month about Trunk or Treat. We're hosting a Trunk or Treat. And right now we have about 15 people, trunks, including the police department and the fire department. And so if you feel the need to give candy away to kids, you get to decorate your trunk and dress up yourselves and have a lot of fun. So just let us know, and we'll be seeing you more.
And more to follow with that as well.
Yes.
More to follow with that as well. Okay. The right side for library, comments, questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, as always, for continuing, you and your staff volunteers as well, for always looking for more activities for families and kids. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Thank you.
This coming Friday is Mathnasium Night, Legos, build a tower. It's going to be a great challenge. Come out with your grandkids, kids.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 8, city engineer.
Good evening.
Turn the mic on, please. There you go.
Good evening. Couple things. TxDOT FM 2252 expansion. We talked to Christy Hill with TxDOT. They're continuing work on existing utilities and performing an impact assessment on those utilities. We'll be having a utility coordination meeting at the end of September, and we'll be finding out at that point what water lines will have to be moved for the city of Garden Ridge. FM 2252 wastewater. We're continuing to analyze existing infrastructure to ascertain possible capacity issues. Schertz is in the process of evaluating their flows. They have flow monitoring currently in some of the lines we utilize. And we'll continue to coordinate with possible wastewater connections. Woodland subdivision, Vincel Lane drainage. Walkthrough by the city of Garden Ridge and Tri-Hydro produced a punch list. The contractor's been working on it, and we have a re-inspection and hopefully a final inspection this Friday, the 20th, or the 6th, rather. Last thing, the Blackwell office building. Site plans for a proposed office building at 18875 2252 has been submitted to the city. They are currently being reviewed by Tri-Hydro. We expect the comments in 1 week. Any questions?
Yeah, before I turn it over to them, a couple things. You mentioned Benseal, but also Sumac Circle.
Sumac Circle, Stephen already covered that. The fencing has been installed.
And from an engineering perspective, we good with the next step, which is going to be going through the
Drainage.
ditch? Okay. And then Naco Loop water line?
We had a 1-year warranty walkthrough. There were no punch list items. Everything was in good shape.
Okay. Starting over on the left side, questions for the city engineer?
Do you have any comments to date on the Blackwell property?
We're in the process. I'm not the one doing the review. Mr. Fanning is. And he's looking in and comparing the variance requests. There are a number, I think 3, to the code, figuring out the deviation, possible mitigation to those variance requests, and also looking at some of the other areas. There were some areas of the plans that were kind of incomplete. There was no grading, no details on detention. And so they will have to be responding to comments at some point.
Question. Sir, anything? Sir? Ma'am? Sir? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 9, City Commission Committee Reports, Recommendations, Possible Actions. First up is Planning and Zoning. Had one meeting since the last time this body's met. Dr. Miller, floor is yours.
We had,
Get it up close. He's very soft-spoken. Nope.
okay.
Try talking.
Now's it on? Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Excellent. Even a blind pig will find an acorn every once in a while. We've had one meeting since the last city council meeting, and I'm bringing to you today a recommendation from Planning and Zoning for approval for reappointment of 4 commissioners. We did it in our meeting, all 4 of us at the same time. In place 1, myself. Place 4, Commissioner Valdez. Place 5, Commissioner Heyer. And place 6, Commissioner Dower, for reappointment for a 2-year term. They were all unanimous, and we await your recommendation. Excuse me, I'm giving you a recommendation. I await your approval.
Okay, I'll take it from there. Council, you have a recommendation from Planning and Zoning for the reappointment of the commissioners that are listed. Can I get a,
I move we approve all the commissioners for reappointment.
and I'll say it then for you, Miller, Heyer, Valdez, and Dower. So I have a motion from place 3. Can I get a second, please?
Second the motion.
I get a second from place 5. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Sir, back to you.
Doctor, thank you. Thank them for coming back again.
Certainly, thank you. You also had an excellent discussion and extended questions and hypotheticals regarding the legislative changes that came down at the last meeting, or just before the last meeting. And we must have spent 45 minutes to an hour talking about them. And they were kind of a surprise to all of us. I had a little heads up, but a lot of us were kind of surprised by them. And the city attorney did a excellent job of handling the questions and the hypotheticals that we came up with over that last hour. Subsequent to that, we had a small session with Chase from Freeze and Nichols, and seeing how some of the other cities around the area are handling some of those changes. And we got some possible solutions. I don't want to call them workarounds, let's call them work-ins. We got some solutions that may work for Garden Ridge, that we don't get hurt too bad by some of the changes. We're also waiting for feedback from the strategic committee so we can get with city council as a whole and planning and zoning as a whole group and decide how we're going to go forward with the rewrite of the ordinance and recommendations that we made going to make to the city council and the city. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, sir. Starting left side, questions, comments for planning and zoning?
No, thank you.
Sir.
Doctor, 2, maybe 3 months ago, Councilman McCaw and myself offered to help 2 of your commissioners with getting past some hurdles. Do we still want to do that?
I assume you're referring to the strategic planning?
Yeah.
Kind of looking at how we're going to move forward, timing, meetings together, that kind of thing?
Right.
Yes, sir. From our standpoint, yes. But you may recall that I asked specifically not to have a role in that meeting since I'd spent so much time with the tactical committee and the planning and zoning as a whole. I don't have visibility as to whether or not you guys have met, although it's just been answered. Okay, but the way I understood it was the 2 parties involved from city council and the 2 parties involved from planning and zoning were supposed to get together and take it from there. And I didn't hear any feedback. So for me sitting here as the chair, I'm saying, yes, we want to do that. And I'm sure the city council would like to do that. That's as far as I can take it.
Okay. First of all, we had 2 people that tentatively were going to be off of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, sir.
Those have changed, from what I understand.
We changed
So
one.
we don't even know who we're going to be meeting with at this point. I would like you to get with one of them, explain them what you want to do, so when all 4 of us do get together, we know what direction we're going to go, because literally John and I do not know who the people are we're going to work with, nor do we know the problems we're going to be solving. So we need some direction from you. How's that? Throwing it back in your lap. Now, who are we working with? Do we have any idea right now who's the 2 people are going to be on?
Yes, the vice chair was one of the people that was on that strategic committee, and he resigned subsequent to that. He's been replaced by Commissioner Diaz, and the other person was Commissioner Heyer, who was out of town unexpectedly this summer, which kind of threw a monkey wrench in things. All of that, to me, was pertinent, but not show-stopping because of course, of the legislative changes, and we got a whole lot of other stuff to look at. Although the strategic committee was just supposed to get together and see how we were going to get together with city council. But I will get that information to you.
Okay, I'll tell you, let's put it this way. We are available at your disposal. So if you can get the two people together, I understand Commissioner Diaz is not going to be working with us, or am I wrong? It doesn't make a difference. When you all get ready, we're ready.
If I'm going to jump in here and take a little bit of heat off of
Yeah, because
off of the chairman.
I'm looking for acorns again.
Okay, so I can't help you with the composition of this, but what I can help you with is to reiterate one more time what this is all about. This is all about a strategic planning committee, neither one being a quorum from the respective bodies, so 2 from here and 2 from planning and zoning, to discuss how are we going to get this zoning ordinance done, how long is it going to take, what resources do you need, and when do you need to bring council into it, so then the 2 people from council can also be assisting with any resources, bringing it back to council, as well as any a conduit for if we need some joint meetings or anything else. You're not looking at the ordinance. You're talking about how are we going to make this happen. So depending on your background, depending on the words you like to use, you could call it a steering committee, strategic planning, you could call it anything you want, but it's not about the ordinance, it's about getting the ordinance complete, but not about the substance of the ordinance. And so one of the things that I've said a few times now is you can get together, but you can do it via telephone or any other electronic means you want to do, but talk about, hey, so these are the tasks we still got to do, and it looks like it's going to take us another 2 months to do it. Well, can we make that any quicker if we get some help with this, that, or the other thing? So you all can talk about that. And then say, all right, so assuming it's going to take another month before council can look at it, so you're telling me that in a month or in 2 months, we need to have a joint meeting? Okay, let me bring that back to council and tell them we need to look at a joint meeting in October, or whatever it is. That's the purpose of these 4 people getting together, however you all want to get together to do that. Does that help?
Not very much. Again, I need to know who's going to be from the Planning and Zoning Commission to work with John and I, or who are we going to be working with, and where do we start?
We have a meeting next week.
Okay.
I will pass on your concerns and pointedly point out to the principals involved that you're eager, and it's looking like we're holding things up. And I'll make sure. I'm saying that that's how ostensibly that's what it looks, and I don't want that to be what's holding everything up. I'll make sure that they realize that.
Okay, you're not holding anything up,
I understand.
and you've been working your tails off for the last year or so. We appreciate that very much.
We'll get it squared away.
You said it didn't help at all. I'm not, and so I'm a little confused. Again, I'm not about who's on it. I'm about that this all came about a few months ago when the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission said, how long do we have to do this? When do we need to have this done? What kind of resources can we have? When can we get together with council? So the purpose of these 4 people getting together in a steering committee or whatever you want to call it was to answer those questions. That's all. So what we're looking for you guys to do with the 2 people, whoever they are, from planning and zoning, is to say, all right, this is where we are so far. This is how much we have to do. And if we had some help with this, or if you all gave us some direction with that, then we could make this happen. And our city secretary, I think, has something to add to this, so I'm going to give her a chance to speak.
The 2 people on the Planning and Zoning Commission that you are working with is going to be David Dower and David Heyer, if that helps any.
Okay, are we good now? Yes. All right. Sir, do you have anything else for that?
Not at this time.
Okay, it's been so long, I don't remember. Were we going in that direction? Yeah, all right. Ma'am? Sir?
I got a real quick question. In 25 words or less, what were the issues, just the subject, no detail, the subject of the changes that came down from the legislature?
You're asking me what the, let me be sure what you're asking me. You're asking me what was the subject of the meeting we had, the short meeting?
You mentioned that
There were-
in your last meeting you were discussing and.
Well, there were some changes that we couldn't write into the ordinance, such restrictive building codes and architectural standards and some site standards, I believe, that we couldn't be as restrictive as we wanted to be, or as we appeared to be. And it wasn't just us, it was other cities of our size throughout the state. And it kind of threw a monkey wrench in, because what we tried to do when we write an ordinance, we were trying to maintain the ambiance, if you will, of Garden Ridge. And we had written in standards that were maintaining what Garden Ridge looks like, other than the lawns and the trees and stuff now, because we've had some problems with that recently. But the legislature had restricted that, and so we had to go back and look at, were we being too restrictive? And it really kind of threw out everything we had, as it did everybody else's. And we had to get with the attorney and other people to see if we can do, again, not workarounds, but work-ins, to see how we can work within the guidance they gave us. And I think we got a good idea of what we would like to do, but I'd be speaking out of turn to go any further with that this evening. Sorry about the word count.
The word count. Okay, a couple of things. We heard a little bit from the engineer on the T. Blackwell office complex. You're going to be seeing that very soon, and we're going to be talking about this tomorrow, and I'll ask the city administrator to relay our discussions to you afterwards.
Please, because I won't have any visibility to the
Yeah,
to the
you're going to
meeting
get
yet.
visibility and hurry on
Okay,
it.
yeah.
We're moving slower than is reasonable on this. We're going to have discussions about it tomorrow and with the engineer, and then it's going to be relayed to you, because you're obviously going to have a play in this. The other thing is, just want to thank all of the folks that are serving and agreed to continue to serve. I know that it is not necessarily all fun and games, and there's a lot of meeting and a lot of work, but please pass on to I know some of them are in the audience, but please pass on to your group that we really sincerely appreciate, because very important decisions are being teed up through your commission for what we're going to be moving forward with the city. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass it on.
Next up is item number 9B, Quarry Commission. Recommendations, possible action. Mr. Shands. Chairman Shands, excuse me. Had one meeting since the last time this body met.
Mayor, I say on the agenda, as you know, we have 4 members to be considered for reappointment. And the first 2, and 1.1, are Commissioner Shands and Haddad. And they have sort of a simple decision by council. It's a yes or a no. There's no other considerations about good cause, which we'll get into in just a minute on the other 2.
Gotcha. I'll jump in here and say, so I need a motion to take action on reappointment of Commissioner Shands and Commissioner Haddad.
I move to reappoint Commissioner Shand and Commissioner Hadi to the Quarry Commission.
Okay, I got motion place 2. Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a second from place 4. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay, sir, back to you.
The second portion is the for good cause clause, which says that when we have no other applicants than these 4, 2 of them have already served the maximum number of terms allowed without at least a year's delay, a year's vacation. And so we would ask that you consider finding the cause necessary to keep that commission staffed by reappointing Commissioner Mudge and Commissioner Holloway.
Okay, I got this. So the difference in the second section with Commissioner Mudge and Holloway is that they are at the term limit, but in the ordinance that y'all approved, ordinance 210, there is a provision to allow that to be extended for good cause. Good cause meaning these folks have a lot of experience on this commission. We need their experience, and we want to continue them. And it's been submitted by Corey to do that. So can I get a motion to act on this?
I move to approve the continuation, the reappointment of Commissioner Mudge and Commissioner Holloway, I know him, per your request. Thank you.
I get a motion for place 5. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 3 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are unanimous. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Next item is the request from Buckley Powder for a blasting permit at the quarry. They had submitted all the necessary information or getting it to Ms. Kane, and we found no problems with it, and they're recommending approval.
Okay, jump in here again, and actually a little bit more to this one, because I want to throw props to the Quarry Commission for being willing to have a special session. The long and short of this is for the last 2 years that I've had experience, well, 3 years that I've had experience with this, the partial exemption permits have always come in late and required us to kind of jump through hoops to get the action to make sure that they didn't have a lapse in their ability to blast. This time, last year, if you recall, we threw the shot across the bow and said, don't do this to us again. Guess what? They did it to us again. I called the plant manager, left him a strongly worded message, and of course, he doesn't do the blasting nor the permit, but he has a strongly vested interest in this happening. And very shortly after that, there was phone calls to the city administrator with multiple apologies and promises that this will never happen again. Please accept this. And so lots of contrition and apologies. So then, again, the Quarry Commission agreed to meet off-cycle to be able to get this teed up for y'all, to make sure that that the blaster has a permit, because otherwise they would have to go for the first part of October until y'all met again to approve it. So I just want you to know that we appreciate that the Quarry Commission stepped up and helped these folks out. So that said, you have a recommendation from the Quarry Commission to take action on this permit.
I move we approve the Buckley Powder Company partial exemption permit for blasting.
I have a motion for place 3 to accept the permit. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 2 with the second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Just a second. Nancy, you had everything in our work file, that all their insurance, everything is up, everything is perfect. I know it
Yes.
is. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now, the second piece of this is the fee. And as y'all may recall, every year the fee changes because the expenses of processing these permits goes up, because our expenses go up. And so I'll hand it over to Ms. Kane. She'll explain, that she put this in the package, but explain the fee change. Ma'am.
It's recommended that the fee for the October 1, 2019 through September 30th, 2020 partial exemption permit be increased by 12% to a total amount of $24,700.70. The 12% is an average of our administrative cost increases for the 2020 budget year.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Kane on this? It's on the right side.
No. I do. There's been a pattern of them coming in late. And this may be a bigger question for legal than the city administrator. Can we charge a late fee? I'm trying to get creative here and give them incentive to get it in on time so our Corps Commission folks don't have to volunteer their time and give it away because somebody forgot to do their paperwork on time.
The answer is yes, the city can charge a late fee for any type of permit processing. We just need to amend the ordinance and write it into the ordinance.
Okay. That's something I'd be interested in maybe us looking into. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks, but this has been, I think, more than a 2-year pattern. It's gone on for quite a while, so maybe the chance for them to save a little bit of money by getting it done on time might incentivize them to get the paperwork done.
Fair enough. Any other questions or comments on this?
Further to add to it.
Okay, so the partial exemption permit fee being set at 12% increase to $24,770. We won't forget the 70 cents. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve?
I get a motion from place 3 to approve. Can I get a second? Second. Place 1 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? And we will take a look at if we want to put something like that in there. I'd be really surprised if they're late next year, because next year the penalty will be that they won't be able to do business, which costs them a lot more than any penalty we're going to put on there. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And it is unanimous. It's passed. Thank you. Moving on to item number, and actually, Mr. Shan stepped off, and please go ahead and stay there. You don't have to. I just want to thank you again also for your commission being willing to have this special meeting and take care of business. I know you also took care of the reappointments, but that could have waited. You just figure, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone and get that done as well. But thank you. Pass on thanks for all that y'all are doing there. Thank you. Next up is item 9C, Water Commission. 1 meeting since the last time, and it looks like Mr. Valdez is going to represent for the Water Commission.
Hello. So a couple items on the list from the Water Commission is, first, we have 3 commissioners that were up for reappointment. 1 commissioner has stepped up to say he would, continue for another 2 years. So we had a recommendation to reappoint Commissioner Harshberger for another 2 years.
Okay, I'll take that and offer up, can I get a motion to reappoint Commissioner Harshberger?
Move to approve the reappointment of Commissioner Harshberger.
I get a motion, place 2, to reappoint Commissioner Harshberger, and I get a second.
Second.
That's from place 2, sorry. And place 4 for the second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Next one is Commissioner Holloway has stepped down as a commissioner. He didn't seek reappointment. So we interviewed 1 candidate, James Miller. Excellent resume that he had. I don't know if he's in the audience or not. I don't think I saw him earlier.
I don't see him.
Is he? Okay, so he's not here. But anyway, excellent resume. We had a lot of questions for him, answered them very well, and we also recommend that we appoint him to commissioner starting October 1st for 2 years.
And if I could add, he actually had some good questions for y'all, too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I was impressed with that.
That's good. So that said, you have his package and a resume in the board, in your package there. If you have any questions, I'm sure that Commissioner Valdez could answer. Did anybody have any questions? Right side? Left side?
You care to share the questions that were asked?
He wanted to know about, well, that's kind of putting me on the spot. I didn't bring my notes.
The big picture.
Okay, between the 2 of us, can we remember? Let's see, one of the questions was, what does the commission see his role on the commission being? What does the commission see the future of the Water Commission's role, as well as the future planning of making sure that the community has water for the future. What else?
Sufficient.
I don't have any notes.
Yeah, they were-
Ties
I
into his
mean,
resume.
And it gave, and it was a good discussion.
Right.
I would tell you that your commissioners are represented well and gave them some good answers. And I'm not going to tell you what the answers were.
I'll-
Any other, he asked other things too, but
He asked
not,
just about the logistics of the commission too, you know.
That's
what
right.
owners we had, like 210, things like that.
yeah.
So he was on top of that.
No, I appreciate that. It's great.
Yeah, he
I wish
was
you
on
were
what
here
the
tonight.
expectations were.
Yeah, ordinances, he wanted to know about the ordinances and how they apply, yeah.
And there's that expectation for attendance and things like that, and he had no problem with none of that.
Yeah, he's a
But he-
strong
But
resume,
he asked
so
that, yeah.
ties into that, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, so that said, can I get a motion, one way or the other, on Mr. James Mueller?
Move to approve the appointment of James Miller to the Water Commission.
I get a motion from place 2. Can I get a second?
I second the motion to approve Mr. Mueller.
I get place 5, second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you, and turn it back to you.
Okay. With that, leaves us one more position open, so we're still seeking, our chair hire is stepping down at the end of the month, so we'll be looking for additional, volunteers to step forward, so that was a request there by. Okay. Next, we have a revision to ordinance 61. This is to amend section 4.04, the water rate surcharge to unrestricted funds. And there you see the change up there. And that's-
Yeah, and the Reader's Digest on this, very simply, is we talked about this before, that in the water budget, there's a line for restricted funds. Changing this ordinance puts it back into the water fund, unrestricted funds, so we can then use them. This was a legacy of when we had surcharges, when we were under restrictions and all that, because we were afraid we were going to have to pay penalties. But we have better management, better sourcing, and we believe that this is unnecessary. Now, that said, this is a recommendation, but we lumped all of the ordinance changes together. So we will look at this to look for your consideration in item 10B. So we're not going to act on this one. This is just the recommendation from the Water Commission. So I'll turn it back to you.
But the only thing else from there is everybody giving an update on our projects, and so we're moving on that. We need to have a plan set up to present to council to close those projects up in the next month or two.
Yeah, the Water Commission's doing a great job with looking at more education as well as planning for the future. Really great stuff.
Infrastructure.
And infrastructure, supplies, equipment, mean time between failures, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's great stuff, and they're going to be presenting that to you gradually in the coming months.
That's all I
So
have.
leave that with questions, comments for the Water Commission, starting right side. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate all you all doing. Next up is item 9D, Wildlife Management.
Now we're on? Okay, good evening. Okay, first on the agenda is to give you our recommendation for the reappointment of both myself, Commissioner Krasinski, Knipper, and Sullivan to another term. And we had a motion that was passed unanimously to continue the terms.
Okay, Council, you have a recommendation for all of those folks. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the reappointment of Commissioner Segovia, Commissioner Krasinski, Commissioner Kneiper, and Commissioner Sullivan to serve another term on the Wildlife Commission.
I have a motion from place 4 to approve the reappointment of those 4 commissioners. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 3 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, ma'am.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Place 7 vacancy. We received an excellent application from Shannon Drickta, and I know I'm saying her name wrong again, which she was, but it was a very positive interview, and unanimously we voted to recommend her for a position on our commission. I believe you have your resume there, well, or not.
You do have her resume and
Yes.
information in the package. She is in the audience,
Ah,
so feel free to call her up and ask her any questions you want to ask.
we warned her it might happen. But we weren't sure. But we said it counted as a meeting if she's approved.
So that said, on the right side, any questions on this from either commissioner or from the potential new commissioner?
Can we get her to raise her hand?
Yeah. Anything on the right side?
Just thank you for stepping forward.
Anything else? Left side?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Ms. Drichter because she's already been present in a number of places, obviously professing her desire to be involved in the city, including coffee with the mayor and assorted people. So I welcome her.
Okay, so that said, can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the appointment of Shannon Drichter.
Got a place one with a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place two with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous.
Excellent.
I was going to ask, I didn't know they had universities in Arkansas, but.
Ooh.
But aside from that, Shannon, thank you so much. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for stepping up, and we look forward to your perspective on this as well. Appreciate it. Okay, back to you.
Okay, we had a third recommendation to submit our plan to the council. However, we have kind of pulled it back for a little more editing. So hopefully we'll have it ready for next month. It really was more minor editing, to be honest with you. It's looking very good for our wildlife management plan for the city of Garden Ridge.
That's why you did not get it in your
Yes.
monthly package, because they're still doing a little bit of work, but.
You would have
sure
had
you'll
one
get it.
day, too, to read it if
Yeah,
I
so
had gotten it to you.
You'll have 3 weeks or more, and it'll be in all its glory. So we look forward to getting it. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. And then we have some general updates. We did do an education session on the snakes of Garden Ridge, which I found very interesting. Jeremiah McKenney, one of our commissioners, he put it together. And he's also doing an excellent presentation next month. He started working on it tonight, as a matter of fact. He's going to be out taking some recordings, and it's on the language of the bats here in Garden Ridge. So anybody that's interested in that, he'll be giving a lot of information on that and some actual, I don't know, digital recordings. I can't remember how he said it was going to be. In October, we're going to be doing bees and beekeeping. Also, on September 28th, we are doing the Gardens of Garden Ridge, but the Wildlife Commission has also invited our Texas Parks and Wildlife person. He's no longer unfortunately, our liaison with Texas Parks and Wildlife, but he's going to make one more appearance for us on the 28th of September to give out information on monarchs and butterflies and encourage people to plant more natives, which also helps with water and using less water. And he'll be there at the gardens to speak with people and answer questions on behalf of our commission. And I just got his answer, yes. He is in a new position, so I just got his answer yesterday, so that's why it's not on the flyer. Also, on our next meeting, we're going to be doing the wrap-up of our deer count. A little bit on deer management. The counts did start on 8/21. We did the second one last night, and we have a third one. And we're only doing 3 this year because that is more aligned with the protocol as it should be. And because they never do as many as we were doing. And also, Craig Hensley, our Texas Parks and Wildlife gentleman, has been going out with us and assisting with them. So it's really been excellent. I appreciate him working with us. We also received a call from Jessica Alderson, and depending on the results and what we decide. Texas Parks and Wildlife has asked if we would be interested in transporting any of our deer to some local people that Jessica Alderson with Texas Parks and Wildlife is working with. And she remembered working with our city before, so she gave us a call and said that she would be interested. So she's going to be discussing it more with us later and with the ranchers that she has already been vetting and working with. So that would be an opportunity to transport deer depending on what we decide. And we also did discuss a little bit about the protocol of moving deer off the road. There was some questions about gloves are left when the police do move deer off the road. Purple gloves will be left on the deer, and people should understand then someone from the city is going to pick it up almost immediately. And so that was the protocol being used, which is proper. And also at our next meeting, if anybody is interested, we'll probably start giving out some Mexican buckeye trees for free. They're native trees, they're drought resistant, they grow under other trees. I planted one last year, I've watered it once, and it's growing. It hasn't dried up because it's under a live oak tree, which is where it belongs. So, any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Starting on the left side. Questions, comments for Wildlife Management?
No, thank you.
Advisory Commission. I have a question. What
Sure.
are we doing to make sure that people know about this purple glove thing?
We did discuss it in our last meeting.
Okay.
It was just something that different citizens had brought up as a concern.
Yeah.
That they saw gloves left on a
Oh,
deer
okay, I get it. Yeah, I remember.
on the side of a
saying about
road,
that.
and so we just kind of discussed the proper protocol, and the police officers will always use gloves when they're
And then leaving
moving
gloves.
something, and they'll leave the gloves there because they have to be properly disposed of. They can't just throw them in the trash
So
somewhere.
if you and the police department would talk about what do you think the most effective way, I don't think we should put on the sign, hey, if you see a dead deer with purple gloves, leave it alone, but we might want to let people know that's what's going on, so.
I
let's
think if
figure
we
out a way
ever,
to get that word
yeah,
out.
and perhaps if we ever see or have questions about it again, we'll address it with those people immediately. But I think that we have communicated it to people that were concerned. And there
I
might have
hear
been
you,
other people.
but
Okay.
I guarantee there's a lot more that don't know.
I'm sure.
So, Chief, we can talk about this later on, too. Thank you. And they're Mexican free-tail bats, right?
There's a lot more than just Mexican free-tail
But
bats
that's the
here.
big colony down the street.
That is the big colony, the biggest colony, but there's other bats that actually live in that cave. He's actually recording the different bats we have here
Reason
and
I say that is
introducing.
Because our newsletter said that they were Brazilian bats.
Really?
Yeah.
He said that?
I don't know who said it. But it
Well-
said Brazilian.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're Mexican free-tail
That's
bats.
what I thought.
And he actually does know that. He's worked for that group on and off for a long time.
So, again, thank you. Y'all are doing a lot of great stuff and taking to heart Wildlife Management Advisory Commission is what you are, and I appreciate that, and I know all the council does, so thank you. Any questions, comments based on the last few things you just heard? No? Okay. Moving on to item number 9E, Parks. I'm looking at Dr. Miller. His mic off.
Thanks for that.
Not being a good partner.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm representing the Parks Committee now, and the fact that I'm talking to you, you should realize there's been some change in the leadership in the Parks Committee since the last meeting. Shelby Trial, who did an excellent job, resigned the chair's position. He's still in the committee and still involved, probably more than he wants to be, but que sera, I guess. We divided the major things that the Parks Committee is going to do during the year, the Christmas lighting, Christmas tree lighting, the 4th of July picnic, and possibly a new event in the spring amongst other leaders for each entity. And we choose to call them czar. I don't know how we got to that. I think I mentioned it and it just kind of stuck. And so we have a czar and 2 co-czars for each event. And we're going to see how that leadership works. I am one of the czar. I am the czar for the Christmas tree lighting, and I have 2 co-czars working with me. And the templates have been set over the years, and we don't plan to change a whole lot because they've been successful. And we hope it goes as smoothly as it has when Shelby was in charge alone. Other things from the Parks Committee is the improvements in Paul Davis Park continues. There's been some minor landscaping and leveling around the basketball court and pavilion. We looked into or got some bids, I believe, on painting and surfacing the basketball court. They came in a little, well, they're modest proposals, but the money that we have available to use may be better spent on other things in the park that will get better utilization. And by that I mean there's some water fountains and some other things that people will use a lot more than the basketball court. And if we have enough, we get back into maybe lining the basketball court after we take care of the things that are better utilized. The last thing I had written, we also talked in the last Parks Committee meeting about altering our outreach efforts, try to better reach the younger demographic that's starting to come into the city, if you will, and replacing some of the older demographic. And we're not meeting those. We're not getting volunteers from that demographic, and I don't know if we're reaching them the way we should. They represent a unique. I guess not a unique. I guess it's been a while, but it's a unique subset of people in the community in that they work. I mean, the rest of us, or a lot of us on the committee, are either free during the day or retired, and it's nothing for us to meet, 10 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, but other people are working 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. And so they can't really come to the meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. So we're gonna have to figure out some way to get outreach to that demographic a little better. One of the other things we're looking at is looking into a website that will help us with some scheduling. We're really excited about that because it has some implications that if it's successful and you can use it as the template for further outreach for volunteer Garden Ridge, if it works. But we'll see how that works out. And lastly, the pocket parks. We have some signage that we're getting for the pocket parks. And even more importantly, we have a new pocket park that's coming along. We're waiting the final stages. It's going to be a project by a potential Eagle Scout, Tristan Arbinson, who's awaiting final approval through the Boy Scouts of America before he gets started. But he expects to get started with that sometime this month, actually. Questions?
Starting over the right side, questions, comments for Parks?
Yes, I'd like to clarify something for the sake of those in the audience. Because he shall remain nameless, Dr. Miller refused to be called General Miller at the 4th of July, so therefore it was proposed that he be Czar Pro Tem Miller for the Christmas tree lighting. There are no co-czars. There's Czar Pro Tem Miller. Any questions can be directed to him. Thank you.
More on that later.
Dr. Miller, thank you for jumping up, helping out. it's undeniable that we're really needing more people to help, to volunteer. We're stressing the volunteers that we have. The problem is we're also victims of our success in many of these things. Every year, all of those events that you mentioned, Christmas and 4th of July, they're all bigger and better, reaching more people, but we've got to inspire more people to help as well. And so efforts to look for ways to do that, I applaud and always say that if there's something that we can do here, let me know, okay? Thank you. Next is number 9F, Volunteer Garden Ridge. Ms. Kane.
Volunteer Garden Ridge had 310 hours during the month of August.
Yeah, it's a light month. Obviously, lots of people on vacation, lots of people out of town. And we're looking, as you heard, a couple things about VGR. Remember last month, we talked about each one of us trying to get some people involved, as well as you heard the efforts from the Parks Committee to also sow the seeds of getting people involved more in VGR. It's, I personally have been sidetracked with a lot of other things, but someday I'm going to have some time to apply a little bit more time to this project, because I believe it's a very important project with second and third order benefits that can have tremendous potential. So that said, anything about Volunteer Garden Ridge on the right side? Looked like you wanted to say something.
I'm going to go shameless harassment and look at the rest of the council and go, did you talk to your 5 people like we mentioned last month? I didn't. I talked to 10.
No wonder he brought it up. So out of the 10, how many people are volunteers now?
None. Yeah, it's A+.
I got Virginia Arvidsson.
That's good.
I wasn't here last month, so I didn't know anything about this.
So now you know. What he's talking about is all of us are gonna commit to at least talking to 5 people. Missy does not count. 5 people, and see if we can help them to see the benefits of being more involved in the community. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Todd. Moving on to item number 10, approvals and authorizations. Following items up for discussion, consideration, action. The first one is our 2019 tax rate. Remember the tax rate, we've had the 2 public hearings already, so this is the 4th meeting in essence about the tax rate. We had the proposal, 2 public meetings, and now the proposal for ratification. Let me explain the way this goes. It's a little strange, but it complies with the law. We have to ratify the property tax increase, and I'll explain that in a second. Then we have to ratify the approval, or we have to approve, excuse me, the M&O rate. Then we have to approve the debt service rate. And then, interestingly enough, if you add those together, you end up with the tax rate, which we then have to do the approval of the ordinance that adopts the tax rate. The first 3 are simple motions and seconds. The last one, simple, it's motion seconds, but then it's a roll call vote. So those are the rules. So starting with ratifying the property tax increase. The simple explanation for this is it's a property tax increase, but in the definition by the state, because the city will be bringing in more money because the valuation of our property has gone up. The property tax rate has not gone up. In fact, it's gone down. So if your house stayed exactly the same value as it did last year, your tax in the city would actually go down. Most people's houses have appreciated. I know mine has, unfortunately, as much as I asked them to reduce the rate. But nevertheless, $52,228 is the increase in revenue in essence. So I need a motion to ratify the property tax increase, and that is item number 2.
I move to ratify the property tax increase of $52,228.
I have a motion from place 2. Can I get a second? Second. Place 1 with the second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. So now the next one, as I said, is the M&O rate. So that basically we split it out. The maintenance and operations rate for 2019 is 0.225158. And I need a motion to approve that M&O rate.
I move to approve .225158 is the 2019 maintenance and operation rate for the city of Garden Ridge.
I have a motion from place 1. Can I get a second?
Second that motion.
Place 5. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next one is the debt service rate, number 4. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the debt service rate of .095948 for 2019.
I have a motion from place 5 for the debt service rate for 2019. Can I get a second?
Second.
I get a motion from place 5, second from place 2. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. This last one is now the roll-up, and it's the ordinance. So it's ordinance 221092019, adopting the tax rate of 321106. Can I get a motion to approve the tax rate?
Move to approve the tax rate of .321106 per $100 for the M&O and debt service rate and the assessed valuation.
I have a motion from place 5 for the 321106 tax rate. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 4 with a second. Now this is the roll call vote. I'll just start with place 1. Go ahead. Aye. Place 2? Aye. Place 3? Aye. Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. Our tax rate for 2019 is .321106. Thank you very much for all the work, and thank you to staff for making sure this went as smoothly and we communicated all that was involved. I appreciate all the work very much that y'all put into this. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 10B, action on ordinance 661, drought management. This is the one that I promised you would come back to. So in essence, it's removing that restricted fund. So if you remember what we talked about, I'm looking for a motion on that.
I move to approve ordinance 61-092019.
Okay, I have a motion for place 3 for 61092019. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 1 with the second. Any further discussion or questions? Yeah. Go ahead.
This has to do with that excess money that's coming in.
It's not excess money.
Sorry.
It's not at all. This is what the Water Commission recommended to us about, in the ordinance, there was a restricted fund.
I got my
And
note
we're
in the
removing
wrong
the
spot.
restricted fund. There's no reason to have the restricted fund anymore, as I discussed with him. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Remember, I have a motion for place 3, second for place 1. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Moving on to item number 10C. This is ordinance 11092019. Now, basically, the long and short of this, there's a lot of wording here, but let me just distill it for you. In the past, what we did was we had lots of ordinances that had the necessity of having some kind of fee, some kind of a price tag to something, service fee, user fee, whatever it happens to be. What we did was we mentioned them in the ordinance, but we didn't say what the fee was. And then we had an ordinance that had all the fees in it. And so we had to mess with that ordinance a lot. And it was also very difficult, not very user-friendly to somebody that wants to, they're reading an ordinance or reading what they need to do, and then it says go to this other ordinance to find out how much you got to pay. So we decided that it makes a heck of a lot more sense and it's more user-friendly to put the fees with the ordinances that they correspond to. This is a process. The reason it's a process is that there are some fees that don't necessarily have ordinances that we're ready to work with yet, or ordinances that we may end up with a couple of fees left in an ordinance by themselves. So as we have worked with ordinances, we have included the fees, thereby needing to take out that said fees from ordinance 11. And that is exactly what we're doing here. Right? Anything to add to that, City Administrator?
As ordinances are amended, new ordinances come forward, you will see this ordinance dwindle down and hopefully disappear.
So that said, can I get a motion?
I have a question.
And-
On page 5,
Certainly. So can I get a motion? No, yes, no? I promise I'll get back to you.
I move to approve ordinance number 61-092019.
I have a motion for place 3 to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
I get a motion, second from place 2. Any further discussion or questions?
As a matter of fact, yes, page 5, first paragraph, to me, it's a little unclear. I mean, it's clear, but it's like nonsensical in the sense, the phrase electrical permits will be issued only after plans for the project have been reviewed and approved by the building inspector, or in the case of minor electric projects, the building inspector. Are we saying we're foregoing a project plan and review and approval? Because the building inspector is doing both of them. Is it meant to exclude a specific plan? You know, like they would have a P and Z?
No, it's not meant to exclude any plans. In fact, this will probably be the next set of fees that you will see removed from this ordinance.
Okay, I just think that the wording is awkward. I mean, it's saying the building inspector will review it either way.
The building inspector is reviewing all electrical plans, whether it's a major project or a minor project.
Right.
So, do you have a recommendation on revising the verbiage?
This is not something we just recently wrote, excuse me.
No,
So
I
yeah, this
understand.
is a legacy of, I agree with you entirely. So one thing we didn't do was go through this whole ordinance and redo the old stuff. We're just pulling stuff out.
Right.
But since you pointed this out, what would you suggest it say? And we can look at making the change.
I'd like Ms. Kane to repeat what she just said, because she said that electrical permits would be issued only after and so on and so on. I believe you stated that they would be projects reviewed and approved, all electrical permits. But
How about electrical permits will be issued only after plans for the project have been reviewed and approved by the building inspector, period?
yeah, because that sounds logical to me.
And then take out, or in the case of minor electrical projects, those are going to have plans.
Regardless.
Regardless. It doesn't matter if it's a major or minor project, they're going to have plans.
That clarifies it for me.
We can make that change if
Certainly can.
council so
And
desires.
I wouldn't bet anything that there's not something else in there. But again, this is an older ordinance that we're just trying to pull stuff out of.
I understand.
So if you see some other stuff, feel free over the next month to send a note to staff so we can take a look at that as well.
May I point out just one other, page 7?
Certainly.
I will still continue to review, as I always do, but the first paragraph, the city secretary has authority to deny use of the city's fax machine to any user if, in her judgment, I'd like to say in his or her judgment,
Okay?
and I will not contribute anything more to this evening's discussion.
So I have a motion to approve this as is, but I could get that person that made that motion to modify it. So it was place 3. So would place 3 like to modify it to change that to his, her, and to remove that second part of that sentence that we looked at in your place 3? You're backed up there, you have to move up. Would you like to do it? You don't have to. Would you like to modify it? You don't want to modify it? You want to?
I really don't care.
Well-
These critiques on items like this are, we've been told in the past numerous times to be brought to the attention of staff and not really discussed here in council. We have a huge agenda tonight, and this sort of thing really is not on my priority list.
Understand. And you're correct, but I would never, ever stand in the way of any one of you that says you want something changed. So, that said, would you like to modify your motion so we can move on? I can, now, if you don't want to, you don't
Okay,
have to,
okay.
and I'll go for a vote on this.
I just completely lost the whole thing. Yes, let's modify the motion.
Okay,
I thought
so-
we approved the darn thing.
We have not, no.
Okay.
No, we were in the comment portion. So to be clear, we have a motion from place 3 to approve ordinance 1109-2019 with the corrections, the corrections as noted. Yes, thank you, that's good, as noted. And I have a second from place 2. Would you like to modify your second to agree with those changes?
I agree with the changes.
Oh,
Second.
thank you, thank you, thank you. So that said, any other further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Yes, and to be clear, all joking aside, yeah, we would prefer if you have these comments, but please don't ever not have a correction because you didn't have a chance to look at it until the meeting, or in the meeting, you're sitting here and you happen to notice something. So
And
diplomatic.
that does happen, Mayor, so in all benefit to Kay,
Yeah.
you see something we need to change
Yeah,
in certain.
so don't hesitate. We want to make things as good as we can. So, Councilwoman Bauer, thank you for.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, moving on, item number 10D, Garden Ridge Farmers Market. So, as you recall, this is the decision point. So, Councilwoman Swint is going to give us the long and short of the options. The bottom line here is you voted to put it on kind of life support for 3 months. This month is the last month. So you have to act one way or the other for this to continue starting next month, October. So she will present to you the options, and we can do it writ large, or we can do individual pieces of it, whatever your pleasure is. So I will now ask Councilwoman Swint to give us the whys and wherefores.
I'm going to preface this by saying I don't want any corrections or any little. Yeah, so we've reached our, let's say, the end of our trial for the farmers market, so we need to make some decisions. Off again.
Thank
We
you.
need to make some decisions. First being, do we continue the market under the governance of the mayor, city administrator, and myself, receiving monthly updates and reauthorizing the continuance of the market every 6 months? And again, we could take this one by one, or we can go through the whole list and then come back.
And what I would suggest is just kind of go consensus on each one unless somebody really has a problem, and then at the end, we'll just say, okay, based on, you pick these things, you want to approve it.
Okay.
We can go pretty fast to it.
Okay, any questions on one? We'll move to two. We've got to rename the market. It's not a farmer's market. We don't have an abundance of farmers coming to our market, so we need to rebrand our market. If we do move forward, we need to get Kat. We need to get Kat off of this. She's got too much on her plate already. My recommendation is that we hire somebody as a part-time market manager. I've laid out a couple of different compensation scenarios. One is an even split. The second one is an incentive. It's based on booth cost. And the fourth category is vendor changes to vendor categories. It's adding a nonprofit booth, accepting wine vendors with the proper permitting.
Could you give us, as you go through the items, give us a recommendation, then go to the next one, give us a recommendation?
Okay.
That way we can act on all. If somebody's so inclined, they can just act on your recommendations and be done. Because, I don't know why. I think you must be bumping it.
Okay. It's Brian. It's you. He's willing it off. Okay, we can go back to the top, rename the market. Generally, I like the Garden Ridge Market Days. Compensation scenario, I'm partial to the first one. I like the even split. Consider changes to vendor categories. I am pro all of these. With a little more discussion on the fourth one. I'd like to add a nonprofit booth. I'd like to accept wine vendors. I am okay with adding CBD and hemp vendors. Want a little more discussion about adding some more commercial vendors. So are there any questions on any of these?
So back up to the top. Anybody have anything on 1, 2, or 3 based on
And
her
I'm assuming
recommendation?
you read the market overview that was provided to you.
So everybody so far is good with 1, 2, and 3.
No, at the end of each one of these little items, you have said, if we continue.
Yes.
Let's
we've got to
decide if we're
start-
going to continue first.
Agreed.
So, you want our thoughts?
Yeah.
We're obviously in part of your write-up here, we're going to start charging for the boost.
Correct.
I would like to see us wait another 3 months with that charge in effect and see how many people drop out and see if it's even feasible after that. You've gone to an awful lot of trouble here, and if we institute most or all of this and we have something that's not going to be a viable situation in the next 3 or 4 months, then you wasted a lot of your time.
Okay, so to be clear, what you're saying is we could possibly go with all the recommendations of this committee, but then say it's a 3-month trial period?
No, before we start instituting all this, I know it's hard on Cat, maybe we need to think a little bit different, but let's see how well it goes with a charge for each one of the booths. If we lose 50% of our people, or the booths, because there's a charge now, which we may do, then it's not going to be a viable situation to put any money into it.
Okay, but we're not going to put money into it. The proposal is about the name, about having a market manager that gets paid for out of the proceeds from the market, and then some vendor categories. So what the committee is proposing is decisions from y'all on this stuff on this page, and then moving forward. So to say that we're going to charge, but we're not going to do any other things, kind of hamstrings the market, and if I may say, unnecessarily.
I would suggest, my thoughts were to let it go the way it is, but let's see after 3 months if we still have any vendors, because now there's a charge. We start hiring people, even on a part-time basis, and doing everything that's here, which is very well thought out. Again, it may not be a situation in 3 months that's even going to be, this is going to exist.
Okay.
Am I missing something?
I think so, yeah. Do you want to tackle this? She's looking at me like, no. Okay, let me try again.
No.
You're suggesting that we charge them and see how it goes. That's exactly what she's suggesting. The other things in here are changes that go along with that don't cost the
Yeah,
city
those changes
anything.
don't cost us any.
It doesn't cost the city anything. But it's also saying, okay, if we're gonna do this, let's change the
Yeah.
name. Let's change the name, let's establish what kind of vendors we can have and that kind of stuff. None of that costs anything.
We're going to be spending the money on Cat or somebody else.
I understand. Now, up to this point, it's been $1,000, $1,200 a month to do this. So you're like, we're going to wipe that out and,
We're not gonna pay for it anymore.
Okay, very good, okay.
The vendors
Yeah,
are gonna
yeah,
pay
yeah.
for it.
No, we're
All
not,
right.
yes. The money's going to come from the vendors. And I think we either need to do it or not do it. I mean, we can't just stay in limbo, and sort of half do it until we figure out if it's going to work or not. We need to take the brakes off and see
Yeah,
if it's
and,
going to work.
and if it crashes.
Then it
we-
crashes. I mean, and then we pull
then
back,
we
not
Call
just.
in a tow truck and call it a day. So,
well, I have to applaud you because if we take the burden off the city as far as the cost and off the Cat and that sort of thing, and we're doing what you suggest here, I didn't realize it was that.
Oh, yeah,
working that way.
we'll-
So thank you very much.
and I just want to add that Councilwoman Swint's gone through a lot of work with Cat as well, talking to different vendor or managers and different schemes of how they do it, whether they charge flat rates or they take percentages and what they do and what they don't do, et cetera, et cetera. So she's put a lot of work into this, and so these recommendations are pretty well thought out and researched recommendations. So what I'm asking is, we could just go down this and go, if everybody's okay with the recommendations she's had so far, and if somebody says, whoa, wait a minute, I think that we should really talk about this particular one, then we'll stop and talk about that. Right?
Yeah?
So, we good with number one, continue it? Yes. Okay, we good with changing the name to Garden Ridge Market Days? Yes. Okay, we good with having a market manager that's compensated through the vendors, so we're not paying for it? Yes. Good, and you good with the one that Councilwoman Swint just mentioned, the compensation scenario, the first one of the two that are listed? We good with that? Yeah? No? Anybody got thoughts on that? No? Okay, the next one, no, go ahead.
Yes.
Please.
just, For information's sake, would this person be paid on the spot then at the end of that each market day?
Well, I haven't gotten that far
Okay,
as far
I didn't know
as-
if that was
yeah,
relevant.
no.
Okay, thanks.
On top of wine vendors, there's a number of microbrew
You know, and I
places that
did a
show
lot
up
of,
in the local area that
you know, I
would be
did a lot
interesting to
of
get them there.
research on that, and I couldn't figure out their permitting process. That tends to be more of selling beer versus sampling beer. I'll do some more research into that, but I couldn't figure out exactly how they do things. It was pretty clear cut with the wine people. They have a wine permit and they have a festival wine permit, but the beer people tend to sell versus sample.
And this is not for on-premises consumption other than the tasting.
Right,
It's not-
right.
We're not.
You can't walk away from the
pop
booth
the
with your
top and
wine
start-
sample.
start Drinking.
Right.
You guys are cracking me up tonight. We could potentially have a group of us maybe visit some of these microbrews and see if they'd be interested in coming out and sell some
Well,
of
now
their
we're having
canned
field
products or
trips,
something.
right?
So you're
A
talking
field trip.
Right.
Research?
Research
A
trip.
council field trip. I like this. I like where this is going.
Potential quorum on a trip to. Okay, so actually, I do want to bring up one, and this is quite complex. Chief's looking at me, but it's an issue. But it is an issue, and he and I have had discussions with quite a few other agencies and our county prosecutor on this. And the issue with CBD is that it is legal, but it's hard to prove that it's legal because, first of all, the industry right now is at the point where anybody is willing to slap any labels on anything and says it has less than 0.03% THC in it, when the industry standards for that are if you can print a label that says that. And so, but the ability to test it is very difficult, and there's only one state-approved lab right now, one that's possibly going to come online pretty soon. So it puts us in a position that if we have people selling CBD, we just have to go into this with eyes wide open, that we won't be able to say, hey, we need to test this and make sure it's less than 0.03, which is the state legal limit of THC in CBD. And so one option is to trust the labeling. Another option is to ask the vendors to prove that they have a legitimate independent test that's been done on their CBD, that it has under the legal limit of THC. And the other option is to say, this is pretty new, and a lot of people in a lot of circles and law enforcement and other are still trying to figure this out. So I'm going to look at the chief and say, do you have anything to add to that?
Where to begin?
Yeah.
My recommendation is no.
Okay.
Okay? And some of it deals with the labs. Even if it's a totally unregulated
Right.
industry. And the CBD oil manufacturers and providers are trying to commingle and intermingle hemp laws and marijuana laws. And there's a big difference, and they're trying to go under the radar using one, not the other, and basically it's just not gonna fly. They're in that gray area right now because legislation is changing so quick. But even if we tell them to prove their product, it's going to need to be proof from a certified lab. There's only 2 in the United States. Okay, so if they provide it from one of those 2, one of them is NMS in New Mexico and the other one's up in Virginia somewhere, I just don't think they're going to be able to do it, first of all. And that's going to take time for them to send it off and get that done. So my recommendation is no CBD. We don't need to be known as the ones that are allowing this to be done.
Yeah, this is a fascinating topic that I defy you to pin down a lawyer to get an answer. You won't get one.
Do you have an answer, city attorney?
No.
What I will say is that the new legislation is pretty clear about, the limit is 0.3. 0.03. The problem is that there is no effective means to regulate that from the city's end. So you could theoretically be promoting a product that doesn't meet legal guidelines and be drawn into
Right.
some sort of civil actions. some
Yeah, so it
enforcement
sounds like
actions
the
that-
safest thing to do is to
It is just
pass.
kind of bypass
Yeah,
that until we
right.
see how those
Until-
new laws
sure,
shake out.
Sure, that makes sense.
So council, I think this is a moving target, and I think that there's a lot of incentive, monetary incentive for some more comprehensive testing, some certified testing, and I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see a dramatic change in this. But the problem is, right now, it isn't there. So I would recommend that right now, we don't dip our toe into this. We have CBD businesses in the area in various jurisdictions, that the jurisdictions are just kind of looking the other way. And so the question is, do you want to look the other way, or do you want to say, until this is figured out, we don't want to deal with it? And it's strictly your call on this.
Oh, no, I think we pass. It doesn't sound like we're at a point yet that,
Other thoughts on this?
Well, I think I'd rather pass just because of the circumstances, although, if the word got around, it could really increase our people coming out to the market.
It'd be a lot more exciting with
talk about rebranding the market, I mean.
Any other thoughts on the right side, left side? Again, you're going to have the opportunity. So do you want to modify your recommendation and say?
Yeah, we can take that off.
Okay, so we're going to take off CBD off of a recommendation, because you're going to get a chance to vote on this writ large here in a sec. Anything else you want to add to your recommendation? Okay. Any other things that council wants to discuss, add, remove from this sheet now that we've talked about it and we know what the recommendations are? Because I'm now going to ask you to give a motion and vote on this. Okay? Can I get a?
I
Second.
have a question.
Go ahead.
Which way are you going?
We'll start on the left side.
Okay. Would having the wine vendors require a police presence that we don't already have?
No, because it's tasting and it's
Right.
not consuming.
Okay, I'm just asking. And I applaud you for looking at all aspects, whether or not the hemp would fly, no pun intended.
Well, now, to be clear, it's CBD, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's not hemp. Hemp is a different thing.
Same category, yeah.
But hemp doesn't have THC in it.
It does, less than .03, and that's what the law is.
Okay, all right? That's not what I heard, but I'm deferring to you. Okay, so, anything? Sir?
First of all, I want to apologize for jumping in the way I did. I was going off of our agenda, started out with sustainability and feasibility. And then I was looking all over this, that you put so much time into it. It's very good.
Thank
Now that we have that straight, I appreciate what you did.
Thank you. I told you to start with no corrections.
Anything else on the right
If I
side?
ever listened to you.
Okay, so for the record, just want to make sure it's on the record that Councilman Lanzi read the agenda. So, moving on, this is about the feasibility, because the things that Councilwoman Swint put on here is to make sure that it can pay for itself.
Right.
So that's the feasibility and sustainability of it. So that said, could I get a motion to approve, and I'll review. Number one, it's to continue it. Number two is Garden Ridge Market Days. Number three is compensation scenario. That's the first one of the two, the break even at 25 booths. And number 4 is everything that's listed there, except for item number 3 is scratched. So that's what I'm asking for a motion on. Can I get a motion on that?
I move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from place 3 to approve as I stated. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 4 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Councilwoman Swen, thank you very much for all the research and all the grief I gave you, that I will continue to give you on some of the rules that we're writing. That would make our attorney proud. Yes. Okay, moving on to item 10E, Resolution 455. I'm going to hand this over to our city administrator, Ms. Kane.
With the future expansion of FM 2252, TxDOT has asked the city to contribute a 10% of their proposed cost to the right-of-way funding for this project, only for the portion that's here through the city of Garden Ridge. With that, they are asking the contribution be $9,481.78, and that is based on a 10% calculation for their total cost of right-of-way. This resolution, if council chooses to pass this resolution, it authorizes me as city administrator to execute the agreement for the contribution of the right-of-way funds of $9,481.78.
So we split this into 2 different actions. First is the acceptance of, oh no, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. No, for this one, it's very simple. And I'll tell you that we've known about this for about 2 years?
Yes.
Yeah. This is pretty standard when TxDOT goes through and does a project like this. We have a contribution, and so doesn't the county. And the county, the three of us met to discuss this, and this is very standard and from what we understand, very fair. So in this case, this is to take action on Resolution 455. Can I get a motion on 455?
Move to approve.
Mike?
Move to approve.
I got a motion.
Resolution 455.
Place 1 with motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
From place 2, I get a second. Any further discussion or questions for our city administrator, starting left side?
Yes, please. Do they have the right to come back and increase this?
My understanding is no, that this is a set fee.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Anything else? Sir?
Do we have any right to deny it, paying it, contributing it?
Well, I will defer that question to our city attorney. Do we have any right to deny?
So the answer is theoretically yes, in reality no. And the reason I say that is because should TxDOT go through and, do all their testing, all their analysis and determine that this is an unsafe roadway, that it has to be done, and they can secure an order that says the city of Garden Ridge, thou shalt do this, and you will pay for the full cost instead of TxDOT. So the city is just better off paying its percentage of.
Thank you.
Good question. Other questions, comments? Sorry, it was a blank stare. I couldn't tell if it was a yes or a no.
Well, just for the record, when TxDOT was doing 3009, we did the same thing, except I think it was like $26,000.
It was significantly more
Yeah.
than this. And originally, the quote they gave us when they first started talking to us about 2252 was about $22,000. So it was rather surprising at this big amount.
So I have a motion for place 1, second for place 2. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous. And now 10F. Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, again, with the 2252 widening improvement, or roadway improvement project, Some of the right-of-way they would like to acquire is owned by the city of Garden Ridge. You will note the little blue slice that is out of the property on 2252 where our city well site sits. That is the piece of property that they're wanting to acquire. It is, I didn't mark the dimension. It's really a very, very small piece of property. They are proposing to offer us, or their offer is $28,386. Of that, $11,286 is for the property itself. $10,100 is for the improvements on the property, which that means the improvement is the city sign. We will lose that sign in its current location. And $7,000 is for the damages to the remaining property. Then also we have an incentive if we accept this appraisal, they will give us an additional $3,000. So it looks like the acceptance of this appraisal would be $31,378. Councilmember Lancy has reviewed the appraisal, and I would ask Councilmember Lancy if he has any comments or would like to add anything.
Go ahead, sir.
That little tract of land there is less than a tenth of an acre out of an acre and a half tract that they're going to be purchasing or taking or whatever. So we have a very small percentage. I did look over the appraisal, everything, one of the better appraisals I've ever seen written, actually, and the amount they're giving us for the land is probably at market value. The amount they're giving us for the sign is ridiculously high. It's not worth that much money. So I think this is a good offer. I really do.
Yeah, so council, we are fortunate to have an expert in this field. So our city administrator's thoughts were, let's see if the expert can corroborate this. And so I appreciate that Councilman Lancy looked at it, and it makes me feel better to know that his expert opinion is this is a good deal. If you don't understand, if you look at your screen, you see me moving the mouse right now. What this is part of a loon turnaround area, because there's going to be a median here, and there's going to be an opportunity to turn around here. And so really this mirrors. It's not just this. There's a mirror that goes over the way I'm moving the cursor. So it goes over here too, but that's not our property. The reason I tell you that is because after this is done, we want to look at, is it feasible to take this sign, which I have the cursor on now, and just move it back, because the sight distance may still be sufficient, because this sign is read mostly by people sitting here getting ready to turn and people coming in this direction. That's the two ways that you see it the easiest. And so if we can move it back to still being on our property, we will do that. And as you heard Councilman Lancy say, they're compensating us the inconvenience, if you will, for doing that. Because this is a great place. It's not the only place ultimately we want to have communications via signs to our citizens, but this is something that I have plenty of anecdotal information that says that we've adopted out cats, and we've told people about meetings that they didn't know otherwise, and they came here for the free parking because the sign said there was free parking. So nevertheless, that is something that we are going to very seriously look at. But until they start to build this, we won't know how much sight distance there is based on what they have to clear on this other side. Make sense?
Yeah, there's one other thing I just wanted to bring up. In the past, every budget season we've seen, well, with the exception of last year and this year, we have talked about an electronic sign in that location. That cost has always been in the $25,000 range. It could be more than that now. But this would cover that electronic sign if we ever wanted to go in that direction.
It's not on the agenda to talk much about the sign, but I'll tell you what, I think I'm going to put it on the agenda because I just want you to know that this is not something we've ignored, but something that some other potential in the sign. So we'll put that on the next agenda, and I'll just give you 2 minutes on where we're going with signage, but that's a great point. Thank you. Okay, so this is split out to two things. One is to accept the appraisal, and then the other one is to authorize the city administrator to execute it. So first one is to accept this property appraisal. Can I get a motion?
Move we accept the appraisal?
I have a motion for place 3 to accept the appraisal. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 4 with a second. Any further discussion or questions?
Yeah, got a question.
Mike?
John, I got a question. They're giving us $10,000 for the improvements, okay? However, if we want to keep the sign, we can keep it for $8. So do we want to keep, I suppose that would be a number 2, whether we want to give them $8 back and keep the sign.
Where did you see that?
It's at the bottom, it's the bottom of the letter. In fact,
On the letter.
if you go to the letter, please.
Yeah, I'll give $8 for it.
For the sign?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And I wanted to mention one other thing. When you look at that, they valued the land at $115,000 an acre. But after all the extra add-ons, you know, it goes up to about $325,000 an acre, you know, instead of 11, whatever it is, going up to 31. So I think it's a great deal.
Any other comments or questions? I have a motion for place 3, second place 4. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Now, the second part is merely to have you authorize our city administrator to execute the agreement, any other negotiation that needs to be done, and execute the deed. So that is item 10F2. Can I get a motion to authorize our city administrator to execute the agreement and deed?
Move to approve.
Motion for place 1. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 2 with a second. Any further discussion or questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Brian wants to buy it for $8.
I'll sell it back to the city for 24 when you want to relocate it because it's attractive old sign, so.
Okay, so that said, I got a motion place 1, second place 2. Can, all in favor? Any opposed? It is unanimous. Moving on to item number 11, update, city administrator reports. City administrator.
Well, we're closing into the end of the fiscal year. Your remaining CIP, 2015 CIP funds, it looks like we have about $30,500 left to spend in drainage projects, $10,461.16 that could be used towards more improvements for Paul Davis Park, Paul Davis Park. And then I do have a balance in there of outstanding engineering fees. I would like to hold on to that a little bit to make sure that we do have all engineering fees with the Binesville project covered. So there may be some money still left to move forward to the Paul Davis Park. At the max, I would say maybe $2,000 to $3,000 additional. At the max.
Okay, so frankly, I'm confused. What are you asking for?
I'm not asking for anything. I was just trying to update where we sit on the different various line items that still remain to be expended, an expenditure for on the 2015 CIP funds.
So you're saying you're going to change the 523750 to 3,000?
No, that may be after we finish the Binesville project, drainage project. There may be a couple, $2,000 to $3,000 that could be moved forward to the parks.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying there.
I will sell you my sign for $3,000 and put it up in the park. It's a beautiful sign.
We'll move that sign that's there.
Okay, so bottom line on this is you know you have in your package, you see a lot of green. And the good news is a lot of this stuff's done. You heard that just in the last few days, Mr. Steinmetz made sure we had some of the other stuff done, so this is all getting wrapped up. We're still, our goal is to wrap this all up by the end of the month. And we have some drainage stuff that we're still working with that we don't have a lot of control over. But we're close, we're very close. And the Parks Committee has also spent some time, I understand this weekend they got together to talk about in some detail some of the additions to the park with some of this money. So my goal has always been to have this thing closed out, so hopefully when we meet next time, this will be, it'll be a done deal, or it'll be really, really close to being a done deal. Okay, so questions on this item? This is the CIP project, starting right side. Questions? Go ahead.
Okay. Last Thursday night, August 29th, we had a very, very educational session here on oak wilt. It was provided by Robert Edmondson. He's a biologist with Texas A&M Forest Service. He's our go-to guy anytime we have a suspicion of oak wilt. There are a number of documents and pieces of material on the table over here. Please feel free to pick them up. Lots of information on oak wilt, as well as the session was recorded, and you can visit the city website and view that session. And anyone who was not able to attend, really informational, and you're encouraged to please watch the session.
Yeah, it's a great session, and he was kind enough to let us, he seemed at first a little surprised we wanted to record it, but watch it and encourage people to watch it. He does a great job taking you through the whole thing, and I highly recommend council watch it so you can be kind of a de facto authority on oak wilt for folks. Continue, please.
Okay, legislative changes in relation to city ordinances. We do have several ordinances that are affected by the recent legislative changes. Our building ordinance, our zoning ordinance are the two predominant ordinances. We're in the process of completing review and analysis of those ordinances. My hope is to have amendments to the building code ordinance to you in October. The zoning ordinance is going to be a little bit more complex. The legislative changes did affect the ordinance, the zoning ordinance rewrite fairly significantly. Was there anything you wanted to add, City Attorney?
The only thing that I would add is that your city administrator has already identified the ordinances that need to come forward first. There will be a couple of additional ordinances that will be coming through because the legislative changes will also affect, I don't know if we have a separate permit for adoption of electrical codes, plumbing codes, those sorts of items. So we will certainly be targeting the most important ones first, and then, kind of working our way through as the legislative changes have significantly impacted all cities. And so all cities across the board will be doing major ordinance changes.
Anybody have any comments or questions on this one? Go ahead, ma'am.
City Attorney, would you like to update on the status of implementation of Ordinance 34?
So we are proceeding to work with the quarry on getting the implementation of the finer pieces of the ordinance put together. We are awaiting an update on the educational materials so that we can bring those forward to the next Quarry Commission meeting. I am awaiting a response from the quarry as to whether that update is going to be ready in time for the upcoming Quarry Commission. I have been in touch with Vibratech and have started the negotiations for the change in the contracting for the blast monitoring services, and so we hope to have that resolved and coming forward to you with the October meeting. Unfortunately, I actually found a company that might actually move slower than your local government at work.
Okay?
It's
That
hard-
said-
It's hard to get past, you know, the city, your city attorneys, you know, working through a contract and getting a contract prepared, but I might have met my match.
Anybody have any comments or questions for this item? Okay. And next up is item number 5, if you want to hand that off too. Go ahead.
I'm going to ask our city secretary to update us on the password management system.
Okay, so as I think you've all heard a couple of times, we are using LastPass, and right now I have broken it out into, well, this morning I thought we only needed 6 groups, and then someone threw a curveball at me, so we're gonna need 7 groups, just so we also have a couple spots remaining in the city's accounts that we can add people to as needed. So where we stand right now is the designated managers of each of those groups are obtaining everyone's preferred email address to invite them into the group so that we can all be paid for under city accounts. Once all of those people that have been designated by me let me know that everyone has joined, then we will start scheduling the implementation and training sessions. I think it'll be more beneficial and more efficient for everyone if everybody already has an account and has somewhat of a knowledge of what is being talked about when we're teaching about the different function of the password management system, instead of just doing the training with some people not even knowing what a password management system does, much less what it looks like. And so I have all of y'all's email addresses, and surprise, I am y'all's group manager. So you will be getting an invite from me very soon. The invite details how to create your own account, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask. The cost for this is going to be, with 7 groups, it'll be $358 a year, and that covers every city employee, including council, our contract employees, everyone. So that's a pretty good deal. And that is since we are going with the families. I want to call it groups, though. It's a little less confusing.
So a lot more to follow on this when we do the training. And they'll be short. There'll be a lot of sessions to make sure we can cover everybody. This is absolutely critical. It's a really good deal, and it frankly is a benefit to our employees because this is going to be something that they can use with their all of their accounts, but it also will be used for any of their accounts at work. It's something that will make sure they understand how to use it, what the benefits are. They're using personal email addresses because it becomes portable, that if they were to leave the city or you were to leave council, you can keep the account and you can choose to either make it a premier account and keep the service that you have, or go to a base account, which is free. So, and it has no effect on the city whatsoever. The managers of each one of these groups have no visibility into your account other than they can disinvite you from being part of the city, and then you have to decide whether you're going to do it on your own or pay for it. But they can't get into your account, they can't get any passwords or anything else. Password managers are, and being a former security professional, I can tell you without a doubt, a password manager currently is the best thing going, aside from maybe having somebody with a black bag that has a chain and a wrist connection following you around with their passwords in it, aka a football. But aside from that, this is probably the best there is. So it's a good deal, and it's something that we're providing to everyone. The more secure they are overall, the more secure they'll be when they're on any of the accounts that they need to be with the city. The Texas Department of Information Resources, DIR, is starting to work the mandate from the legislature in regard to cybersecurity for municipalities. A big deal. There are municipalities that have been hit pretty hard with some of this stuff, and we will continue to lead the way on cybersecurity as we have. We've done some training, we will do some more training, and you will start to get involved in some of this as well, because you are also working on our network, in essence. So thank you to our city secretary for making sure this happens, and in the coming probably month, 2 months, we'll have all the training accomplished, and we'll have everybody up and running. So thank you. Any comments or questions from council? Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is item 11B, Mayor's Projects. Communication report. First communication is you should have heard about this. On September 11th, National Service Day is also going to be Volunteer Day for the Homes for Our Troops house that's going to be in Trophy Oaks. That is in Trophy Oaks, I should say. That's what used to be a work day if you were involved when we did it a few years back in George Ranch. That is September 11th, 8:30 to 9. This has been sent out, but we'll make sure that everybody gets this. It's posted out there as well, but that's the first piece of it. The second piece is the key ceremony. It's going to be September 14th, registration at 9:30. The key ceremony is the final handing over of the house to Army Sergeant Lisa Marie Wiley. And if you're not familiar with Homes for Our Troops, I'll be glad to tell you more or direct you to where you can find out more information. But we've connected with the Homes for Our Troops national office in the Northeast, and we have the local contact. The Lions are working with them, and we're encouraging anybody and everybody that wants to be involved, both on the volunteer day on the 11th and the key ceremony, to welcome her and to be part of that event on September 14th. So we'll make sure you get a copy of that. That's one thing under communication. Another is Coffee with the Mayor. This past Coffee with the Mayor, which was not the holiday Monday, but Monday prior, extended it longer than normal because had a long discussion about school issues with traffic and safety and TxDOT issues. I'm going to cover those here down at the bottom of my projects because that is on the agenda to talk about that. What I will tell you is that also had the opportunity to meet a young lady by the name of Natalie, who might be related to somebody in the audience, that I want to tell you about her because it's one of those things that you don't know what you don't know. And our Parks Committee czar, chair, whatever he is, also happened to be there. And what Natalie brought up to us as a just starting out in middle school this last week was that we're doing a lot of work in the parks, but it might be useful to have the perspective of somebody her age and some kids her age, who are the people that are going to be using a lot of the equipment that we're putting in. And it was kind of an aha for me. It was like, yeah, no kidding, that would be useful. So we talked about that for a few minutes. She had some ideas, some other ideas, and some other stuff as well. But I encouraged her to connect to the Parks Committee and to connect some of her peers to the Parks Committee as well. Obviously, there's some challenges with timing of if they can actually be in the same piece of sky to be able to talk about stuff. But the fact of the matter is I was really encouraged by her ideas and enthusiasm, and we're gonna let her loose on the Parks Committee to see if she can give some perspective. You know, again, don't know what you don't know. When you get a guy as old as Dr. Miller deciding what goes in the park, you never know what you're gonna get. No, in all seriousness, any one of us, frankly, in this room, don't have the perspective that Natalie and her peers have, and I really appreciate her enthusiasm and her ideas, and I enjoyed talking to her. So that's another communication report. Some contact also that some of our folks have dealt with recently. We had actually, interestingly enough, as we rebuilt some mailbox areas, and God, this is the gift that never keeps on giving. As we've done CIP projects and we've rebuilt some of the mailbox areas, we had a problem with one, and it was on Garden Ridge Drive, on the south side of Garden Ridge Drive, and our Public Works folks did a great job of fixing up that area to make frankly the mailman happy as he or she drove in there to deliver the mail, and I appreciate very much. That came from coming in, talking to me, but me handing it over to our Public Works folks. You won't read about this anywhere else, so I'm telling you about it. But thank you, Public Works, for making sure that that happened. Also, the water stuff. I already mentioned it, but it's been a lot of citizen contact that we've had and your staff in the front office has had, and our water folks have done a tremendous job responding to the inquiries, the calls, to ensure that we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's on these accounts, and I appreciate that very much. That's some contact that we've had that you won't read about anywhere else. Moving on to city facility update. I'm going to hand this over to our city secretary to tell you about how we're doing with the audiovisual streaming, indexing, and all the other things that are happening. Marissa.
So our encoder is able to stream to 2 different places at once. So I'm currently practicing the indexing to our current agenda. It's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Sometimes I forget, oh, I need to go index that. So might take a little practice, but I thought it would be better to start practicing it now while they're still making the adjustments to our agenda. So by the time the portal is ready to go live, I'm ready to go live. So more to come on that. Tomorrow we're replacing the monitor in the lobby and the monitor in the conference room with a larger monitor. So next time you come in, you'll see those. I know during one of the meetings, y'all had a hard time seeing information that was displayed on the monitor in there. They're also gonna lower it a little because that one's really high. So hopefully you'll be able to see on those better, and that will be tomorrow. After that, all of the hardware will be taken care of, and we'll just be working on the software, which is the portal called Civic Clerk.
And a couple of you were looking up. She's talking about the monitor in the room behind us, not in here.
Oh, no, not in here.
And also the one in the hallway. The other thing is, everybody clear on what the indexing is. Really powerful stuff. This is all about more and more access to everything that we're doing and everything we're discussing to our citizens. And frankly, one bit of an impediment is having to search through a video to find when we talked about the farmer's market or whatever it happens to be. And now they'll be able to click on the agenda on farmer's market and it'll go to that piece of video. So really powerful. It's all about more and more transparency and accessibility of everything we do to our citizens, for our citizens. So thank you for all that, and it's been a process, and we've learned a lot along the way. But Ms. Spencer's made some really good progress and some good decisions on our behalf, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ordinance revision, you know, we're in the middle still of water, planning and zoning, of course, the fee schedule, as we talked about, legislative changes that may make some other changes necessary. But I also wanted to open this up as a possible discussion topic and an ongoing discussion topic. I'm leaving it on the agenda also, that if you, council, see something in an ordinance that you think needs to be addressed, by all means, bring it up to staff, and you can bring it up in the council meeting, or just send it to our city administrator, and we will take a look at that and put it into the mix of making our ordinances more user-friendly, more timely, more accurate, and more consistent along the board for all of them. Because you know that that's been a process for the last couple of years, and will continue. But keep your eye out, and if you see something, please let us know. The next 2 items: TxDOT coordination and Garden Ridge Elementary School traffic flow and 3009 safety. So this is I've had the opportunity now to meet with TxDOT. It was 2.5 weeks ago. It was on August 16th. This was as a result of my requests and the requests of our state senator, Donna Campbell. I went up there and I talked to her staff. She wasn't there that day. She was supposed to be, but she wasn't. But I talked to her staff and said, hey, I need some help with this because TxDOT is giving me the story that I told you about before, the 85th percentile and all that, and I said, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to fly. Well, the senator's office asked them to do another traffic study and then to talk to me about it, and On the 16th, I had our local representative as well as the traffic operations manager for the San Antonio district come in and have another discussion. Second time I met with both of them. But this meeting was much, much more productive. And I'd like to run down a couple of things that were almost aha moments for me and for, I think, us as a group, and some serious progress that I'm very optimistic about, and I really wanted you to hear about this. So the things that I wanted to shape the discussion with were 3009, issues with overall 3009, people not being able to get out of their neighborhood in Trophy Oaks, for instance. But also that is, Trophy Oaks, Teakwood, Meadow Rue, whatever it happens to be. But particularly getting out of Trophy Oaks in the morning when school starts, it becomes an impossibility. And I actually asked them to do a Trophy Oaks appreciation tour and to go into Trophy Oaks either in the morning during the school traffic or in the afternoon and see how they like not being able to get out. But I also told them that it's more than just the convenience of not getting out. I've done the appreciation tour a couple of times. I think there's value to that. And if you haven't done it, you should do it too, because then you'll get all fired up to come in here and say, we need to do something about this. But the other part to this is that you'll see people doing stupid things because they're frustrated. So they'll pull out in front of traffic saying, I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to pull out and this guy or gal is going to stop or slow down. Really dumb things that people are doing because they feel compelled to do it because they're tired of waiting. So I told them, you guys are responsible for this. This is your road and you're accepting this, and this is an unsafe situation. The other part on 3009, and something I've written about, I've talked about a lot, and I told them this is not acceptable anymore, is the idea that people can be sitting on the side of the road in the morning waiting with their children in their car, sitting still on 3009 while you have traffic. Now, it didn't happen on the first few days because there was so much traffic, nobody was able to go fast. But on a normal day, you'll have people driving the speed limit or a little bit more. So you got them going 60 miles an hour past people that are going still. And I will bet you my pay for the next 6 months. No, I'll bet you my house that you can sit on 3009 and watch people on their cell phones as they're driving by these cars sitting still. It is an unacceptable situation, and that's the word I used with them. I said, we need to do something about this. And I told them that if we have a light on 3009, it'll help. If we can slow the speed down, that'll help. And if we can have a school zone on 3009, it'll help. So, and all these come into play. They all play off each other. So first of all, the speed limit. In the next 2 months, the speed limit, I've got the commitment from them that it's going to be changed from 55 to 50. The part that I can't get them pinned down on is how far the 50 zone will go. I asked them to go all the way to our city limits. They have an issue with that because they think there needs to be a transition because eventually the speed limit goes up to 65. And I told them, no, that's not even going to be a factor because once the high school is operating, you're going to have to relook at all that anyway. But so there's going to be 55. It's going to be 55 at least in front of here and down to 2252. How far beyond Municipal Parkway the 50 goes, I'm not sure. I know there's some people, probably including myself, that thinks it should be lower than that, but this is a step in the right direction. It's absolutely a step in the right direction. And the change costs very little, a couple of signs, literally. And I asked them to commit to me when, and he said October. That's the first piece. Second piece is I said, I know there's no pedestrian traffic for good reason on 3009, and I understand that that's the reason why there's no school zone. I said, I need to break through the mystery and lore of this and say, so from what I was told, the school and TxDOT decided there wouldn't be a school zone there. Then I was told by TxDOT sitting there that the school never coordinated with TxDOT about Garden Ridge Elementary School. They also told me that that's a tactic that the school department uses by not building schools with access off of their roads, off of TxDOT roads. And they said that they have a lot of issues with this, and there's a lot of schools in Comal County, in the Comal County District, Comal Independent School District, excuse me, that are deliberately off of either county roads or some other kind of road to ensure that they don't have to coordinate with TxDOT. And TxDOT actually doesn't appreciate that very much. So I said, okay, fine, I hear you, and so we have the same sentiment in that regard, but what can we do? Can we put a school zone on 3009, even though there's no pedestrian traffic? And I almost fell out of the chair when he said yes. And I said, okay, so how do we make that happen? And he said, well, we need to commission a queuing and traffic study, and we want to coordinate that with the school. So where we are with that is we're working with TxDOT. TxDOT is coordinating with the school department for us to all sit down and to work this. And the really cool thing is TxDOT agreed to actually pay for that study. So I'm optimistic that if we push this hard enough, and I have also encouraged some local people to put pressure on everybody they can put pressure on, to say, hey, this is a good thing and you really should be looking at this. But if we can get a school zone on 3009, I know there's no pedestrian traffic there, and there won't be probably in my lifetime. But what will happen is during school, while they're queuing, everybody's going to have to go really slow by them. So even if they're on their phone because they insist that they have to text while they're driving, now they're going to hit a car going 20 miles an hour instead of going 60 miles an hour, or now 55 miles an hour. So that's a movement in the right direction. It's probably going to take a little bit of time, but I was really surprised that TxDOT was agreeable to doing that, and they don't think it'll cost that much to create that. That will also create a situation where traffic will be slowed down and it'll be more grouped, and it might help people getting out of all of the 9 private driveways, as well as some of the other driveways on 3009. They're trying to driveways and streets and trying to outlet onto 3009. So there's an added benefit to that. Then the next thing is the queuing overall, and I said this is so dangerous that we can't accept it, and that was probably the reason why they agreed that they would actually pay for the queuing study. But you see how these are starting to play with each other. Queuing study, looking at the speed limit, looking at the school zone. Then the last one was an interesting one, and it was Trophy Oaks. And I said, you really need to do the Trophy Oaks appreciation tour and see how difficult it is to get out of Trophy Oaks. And they said, we understand. I said, so I have been told, so I've been telling people that you won't put it there because it is a gated community. And he said, well, not exactly. I said, okay, so explain to me what you mean by not exactly. And he said, well, it's a private street, and we don't put lights on private streets. I said, well, I know of some that are private streets that have lights, and they're state roads. And they said, yes, and those communities paid for those lights. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. So you're telling me that if Trophy Oaks is willing to pony up for the money to put a light at Trophy Oaks, you'd be willing to let them put a light at Trophy Oaks? And they said, yes, they need to first have an engineering study, and they probably will have to move their gate back some because the queuing becomes an issue going in and out of a gate with a light right there. But yes, that we would be amenable to looking at putting a light there. And that was a big revelation for me. And I said, okay, good. So now Trophy Oaks has a little bit of control over their issue, and that we, the city, can look at helping if they're interested in doing this. So I handed this over to the Trophy Oaks Homeowners Association president, who's handed it over to somebody else that I guess is also interested in this. And I asked her tonight, in fact, before we started, any progress, and she said not yet, but she expects, because I actually got the traffic operations manager to agree to talk to the Trophy Oaks people about this very thing. What's required for the traffic study, the study for that light, and all that is, there's some things called meets warrants and all that they have to do. And so he agreed that he would guide them through the process. So lots of progress with 3009, lots of progress with the school. Now keep in mind, I also explained to them that we, the city, have offered up multiple solutions for the queuing of traffic off of 3009 into school property, and we've been dismissed in every one of those, and that still is an issue that I hope that with TxDOT allying with us and having a queuing study, we can show that this is an issue that we need to address. So That's the story. That's where we are. I will tell you also that Councilwoman Swint has been looking at the bus issue, because I've gotten many times parents telling me that they don't want to put their kid on a bus an hour before school starts when they live a mile from the school. They clearly can't walk to the school, but is there any way that we can work the bus thing? And Councilwoman Swint's in the middle of that, so we're going to keep this on the schedule, on the agenda, and next month we'll look at how we're progressing with that. So the first thing you're going to see is the speed limit. Second thing you're going to see is us meeting with the school folks to talk about the third-party study that TxDOT will pay for, and our coordination with that. And then also we want to see how Trophy Oaks wants to deal with the potential of doing the engineering study is what actually they call it, not a traffic study, but an engineering study, and then how much they're interested in putting a light there. So a lot of work to do, but there's some progress for a change. So with that, I'll open it up to questions or comments, starting on the left side. Sir? Okay, I'll come back here. You're happy? Okay. Sure. You live in Trophy Oaks.
I'm not worried about it. Was Donna Campbell's staff any help with what you were accomplishing?
Yes, but they were not very happy either, because, and as you recall, I felt like I kept telling you, we're working on it, because that's what they were getting for an answer. But then finally, they actually, TxDOT did another traffic study, in air quotes, because it was one guy sitting out there measuring traffic and measuring speed and writing it out on a legal pad. But it was a traffic study, and it was good, and it proved that we can move forward with what we're trying to do. But Donna Campbell's office did.
Okay, well, you made some outstanding progress on this, and you had to step in just to get us a darn mailbox out in front of the city hall here. And it took a congressman and not a state senator to get anything out of these people, the post office and TxDOT. So I'm glad to hear Campbell's office was helpful, I hope.
Yes, and there's two things I'd like to add to that. Number one is I actually have a lot of experience with this kind of thing, and I can tell you that many times a state agency is going to listen to somebody like us and nod their head and then go with what they got to do and their priorities of other things. But when somebody that controls their funding, namely state legislature, starts talking to them, they start listening even more, and that's why I did that. And that was the reason why I went to a U.S. congressman about the post office, because I knew that they had more influence than we would ever have with the post office. So it's just a game you have to play. The other thing is I encourage, I'm publicly saying this, that I encourage citizens to engage with, and I put this in the article, by the way, if you read it, to engage with your representatives. Tell them you appreciate that they're interested in this, that they're engaging with this. I encourage you to engage with the school department and tell them that you're very interested in what you just heard tonight, and tell all your friends and family the same thing, because it's a lot of voices that are going to get something done with this. It's not going to be just my voice. Okay, thank you for saying that. Ma'am.
Just congrats on the progress. Glad to hear it.
Okay. Let's see, that covers mayor's projects in item 11B. Going on to 11C, city council projects. Over on the right side, we left it on as what it was called, was Volunteer Appreciation Day, but I know that's morphed. Would either one of you like to address that?
Yeah, I'll cover it, and Chair Segovia covered it a little bit earlier. It's been scaled back to, I guess, kind of what it originally was, which is the dedication for the Gardens of Garden Ridge. It's at the library, same date, September, or outside the library. Same date, September 28th, 2 to 4. Light refreshments were being served. I'm happy to hear that our wildlife biologist will be there. So that's it.
Yeah, encourage, please, come to this. Thank the Coma Master Gardeners and all the volunteers that participated in this as we dedicate the Gardens of Garden Ridge. So yeah, thank you for working on that. And we can leave it on the agenda so you can kind of give us a debrief if you like. How it went? Okay. Next is the new resident package, and we have you and Councilwoman Bauer. Do you have any updates on that? Anything you'd like to say? I had one, I don't, and I look over on the other side. Work in progress, fair enough. We'll leave this on the agenda for next time. Next one is traffic flow in the city of Garden Ridge. Councilman Lanzy. Sir.
Let's see, the sign, or the stop signs have gone up. We appreciate that very much, and so do the residents that live there, a couple of them. I understand a couple are not real happy about it. Your signs look good on Dewar Lane, no truck traffic. I do have one thing that I want to bring to council. We have a small section, if you go up 2252 towards Hanson, go past the entrance, over the railroad tracks, you enter into the old Comel area, city. It wasn't really a city, but Comel. Yeah, their Austin Materials has their entrance about probably a mile from the railroad tracks. Right with our laws restricting traffic, truck traffic through our city limits that don't have a purpose to be there, if they go back towards the gates at Hanson, they do break the law. They would like us to change the ordinance to allow them to leave their plant, go to down to 2252 in front of Hanson and take a left to 35. Otherwise, they have to go up through the old little town of Comel. They have to either go by the new school, middle school, and or cut back around and come back out on 2252, almost at 35. So they would like us to get that to change. I don't think we need to make a decision tonight, but I would like everybody to think about it and maybe bring it up again next month.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't make a decision tonight, but we most certainly can make the decision to take a look at it. We'll get the police department to look at it, and staff will look at it, and we'll bring it back to council with options and how you want to proceed.
And I will tell you that they have already put out the word to their contractors that drive trucks and to their employees that drive trucks. They said if this is allowed to happen, anybody that goes straight through to Garden Ridge will be fired immediately. So that's their promise.
And you mentioned something else that not everybody may be aware of, and so, oh boy, Chief, I'm sorry. I didn't do this to you deliberately. I know you're over there talking, but I thought it might be useful for you to tell everybody about the change with the no through truck signs.
Yes, sir, that was a nightmare. So the court has received multiple letters. We've received so many phone calls. The signs that were posted over there were basically extremely confusing with the verbiage that was on there. So all the drivers were indicating that they didn't understand. And the letters that were being written in to the city and the judge were indicating that those were signs that we created that were out of the norm and out of what the state requires, and they didn't realize the state actually made those signs. And since 2252 is a state highway, what I decided to do was move them back onto our property. So we moved the signs slightly, and I created entirely new signs that would not be confusing. That just say, notice, no through trucks. If they can't understand that, then there's no help for them. So I'm willing to tell the judge that as well. So now, and instead of posting them perpendicular to the road where they really wouldn't see them until they turned, I doubled the signs at each end, put two at each end of Naco Loop, and faced them about a 45-degree angle so the trucks approaching the intersection would be able to see them well before they ever initiated any turns. So we're hoping that cures it. Came at a cost of about $2,000, but we're hoping that takes care of it. I'm waiting on feedback from the officers to find out how much we have curbed their drivers from coming through there.
Yeah, great job. Thank you for explaining that, and thank you for doing it. And if you haven't seen the signs, they're big, they're obvious, they're colorful. There's no way now. And a driver that has just a small working knowledge of the English language will still be able to see that they aren't allowed to be driving on that road. So thank you very much for making that happen. Appreciate it. Brett, in hindsight, we could have had a picture of one of the signs, you can see it, but I didn't think about it until now. So go, if you haven't seen the signs, go look. It's really obvious. Just drive down 2252. Okay, next is item number 11C4, and it's Councilman Arvidsson.
Quick update, this was as of actually yesterday evening through this morning. It appears that the two judges that sat on the contested case hearing have determined that the Vulcan Quarry, Vulcan Materials, has met the burden of proof and has recommended that TCEQ grants the air permit. So what does that mean? That's just one more step done for that quarry opening up the road from us. So the big piece left for them is probably the water permit, and that's it. Sort of disappointing in my opinion, but not much we can do about it.
Okay, thanks for the update. Any comments or questions for Councilman Arvidsson on this? No? Okay, good. Thank you. Next up is discussion of future agenda items. Starting over on the right side, anything that you'd like to see on, no, before I do that, just make sure I'm clear on 11C. Volunteer Appreciation Day, we'll leave it on for, and it's going to change the name, obviously, and just for a quick debrief. The new resident package we're leaving on. Traffic flow, it may either stay here or it may become a bigger item farther, deeper on the agenda for looking at the potential for the thing with Austin Materials. Number 4 we'll leave on. You good with that? Okay, so now item number 12, discussion for any future agenda items. I'll start on the right side. Sir, anything that you want on? Ma'am. Sir.
I would like a discussion about the length of council meetings. This isn't bad tonight. I understand the ones that I missed last month were excruciating. And I would like everybody's thoughts about if we have an agenda that looks like it's going to be absurd that we break this up into two council meetings in 1 month. But anyway, I just want y'all thought on that or next month.
Okay. Anything over on the left side? Okay, got it. Item number 13, citizens comment period. As I said before, 2 minutes. Read anything as long as you didn't talk about it before. And again, name and address doesn't count towards your 2 minutes. Anyone like to speak? Come on up. Shannon, you got to move fast. We got time.
For you to close the meeting.
And City Secretary just reminded me, when you're done, could you walk over to her and put your name and info on there?
Ken Kniper, 8891 Shanetall Road. The new Garden Ridge Market Days, if they continues to be on the second Saturday of every month, it comes in conflict with the Garden Ridge Citizen Police Academy Alumni Association Car Show, which is always on the second Saturday in April. This Saturday, and I think that's this year, the coming year and the following year will be also the Saturday before Easter. I'm not sure you get very many people coming out. That's the only problem I have with it. I think it's a good idea, and I believe Councilwoman Swin had went ahead and she even did a good survey with all her vendors, and they were all willing to pay a fee. So it's something that we should keep on. With the tree lighting, the middle school at Danville also has a choir. You may try to get them to sing some Christmas carols for the Christmas tree lighting. Just an idea, Dr. Miller. That's basically all I have. Thank you very much. And it's still a long meeting at 3 hours and 3 minutes. I know you're not done.
Thanks, sir. Next. Dr. Miller, you want to speak? You had it.
I had.
Did it one time and
Top light.
there you go. You're on.
I don't like surprise. Oh, Jim Miller, 9910 Reed Meadow. I don't like surprises. The water bill I got this month, to say the least, was a surprise. I've been here 16 years and never had one nowhere near that high. Doubled my highest other bill. You've heard me say before, and I'm a city boy, so I don't know much about, water and lawns and all that kind of stuff. Lawns to me are like a, golf course. You can have a putting green, you can have a fairway, or you can have the rough. I'm even more simple. I like my lawn to look like all my neighbors' lawn. If all of them have lush green lawns, I want mine to be lush and green as well. None of us have lush green lawns. All of us have brown lawns. I don't know the difference between dead and dormant. When I walk on the grass crunches, to me that's dead. When the leaves from the trees start falling in July, I think the tree's dying, so I watered it. I think what we need to do is better educate the public about water in the city one way or the other. Tonight I was sufficiently water shamed because I'm in that 100,000 gallon group probably, and I call myself being a conservationist and living with nature and walking and watering my lawn when it crunches or when I see the trees, leaves falling. And we had 15 new residents in July. They're in for a big surprise. When the house is built, they'll finish about April or May, and they'll get a $50 water bill. And then in August, they'll get a $300 or $400 water bill, and somebody ought to let them know this is what's coming. The last thing I had, I didn't hear it in the meeting at all tonight about the quarry open house, okay? And that's a big part of the city.
Thanks, sir. Next.
Shannon Drifted, 9380 Cinchona Trail. First, I want to complain about the temperature of this room. And I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to serve on the Wildlife Management Advisory Committee. I'm excited about that opportunity. About the water usage, I also went from about a $60 water bill to about a $300 water bill. And we only use a handheld hose and a rotating sprinkler. And so I wondered if there's something the city could do as far as giving people a reading sometime when they reach a certain level that they may not be aware of how much they're actually using. Like, it seems like it's a surprise when we get our water bill. I don't know how to read my water meter, and I don't know if I'm the only one. Regarding the 3009, all of those comments were amazing to hear. 50 miles an hour, like we were saying, is probably not as low as we would like, but how do we keep the pressure on TxDOT to maybe get that a little bit lower? You were talking about school zones, and just wanted to make sure that we're going to include Davenport High School as well when we do the school zones. We did have a meeting with Superintendent Kim on August 29th with Dr. McKenna, the person in charge of security. And we have another meeting set up in a couple weeks, and they were already out looking at our traffic flow. I would like the city to look at the yellow cones. I talked to Chief a little bit about it before, about if those cones are actually needed and whether or not you could make 2 lanes coming in to Municipal Parkway, especially since you have the box open. What else did I have? That's probably it.
Great timing. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Billy Chamberlain again. I live on Tonkawa and Comanche Path. Anyway, my water bill was I think a little over $600, 65,000 gallons. Didn't realize I went that far over. But my problem is I've had TxDOT, the gas locator, electric line locator, and water locator in my property. I've also had people coming in from that new property being built and marking trees, whatever, but especially on the side, I've been watering a lot. It's still dead and the grass is being trampled because people are always walking in there and moving in there because of all the locators. So I do have an issue with the bill being that high, But I was told by the boss to turn off the water and just let it die right there on that side of the street. But the water bill was extremely high and was a shock to be that much. But main reason I went above what my normal would be was because of all the work being done. So.
Thanks, sir. Don't forget to go over there and sign.
What's that?
She's gonna.
Sign
Anyone else? Once, twice, 3 times. Okay, closing out citizens' comments. Moving on to item number 14, reports, comments from mayor and city council members. Ask you to stick to the things that are on this list. And only on this list, starting over on the right side. Sir.
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate what Dr. Miller said. The Garden Ridge Lions Club has its annual fundraiser, the Fish Fry, Barbecue, and Auction, October 5th, the first Saturday in October. And it's a lot of fun. I would like to see everybody there.
Thank you. Ma'am.
I did attend the last Comel ISD board meeting. We should probably add Davenport to this Garden Ridge Elementary list right there. I have a meeting set up with Matthew Deloach, who will be the new principal of Davenport. I just want to make sure that the city and our citizens are just informed of what's going on with the school, so we can just keep everybody up to date.
Thank you. Sir. Sir.
Lisa stole half what I was going to talk about. I got contacted last Friday by the school board president, Cody Mueller, wanting to put together a meeting to sit down and talk with probably myself and the mayor and concerning traffic. And it sounds like we've already got a group that's working on some of that. So maybe we need to all coordinate to make sure we're not talking about the same thing over and over again in 4 different forums. So I got somebody out in the audience I need to go talk to when we adjourn here, because I can't keep talking any further because it's not on the agenda. And from there, I'll try to set up a meeting time for all of us, just to try to coordinate this out. It ties in with what you were doing, Mayor, with potentially, I guess, out on 3009, but we can tie in the parkway in front of the city here and those kind of things into the, hopefully making the traffic flow a lot safer.
Okay. Ma'am. Okay. That closes out item 14. Item 15, executive session. City Council recess, open meeting, and reconvene executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551071. Consultation with attorney, seek legal advice, connection, deliberate purchase, lease, exchange, or value real property, and regarding related negotiations for city building projects and utility projects. We're going to reset. And by the way, we also need the engineer in there. Recess is going to be at 9:12, and we'll reconvene in there at 9:20. Thank you.
Oh, my God.
Highest before that was 800.
Why do you,
And like I said, I wouldn't be.
I mean, is it green? No. So why are you watering it?
I mean, it's green because I had the milkweed. I just put them in, so I didn't want them to die.
We live? We good? Okay. It is 9:51, and we are reconvening from executive session on September 4th, 2019 City Council regular meeting. Moving on to item number 16, business items. Council, is there any action that you would like to take out of that executive session?
No.
Looks like no, there's no action. So I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Place one with a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place two with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous. We are adjourned at 9:51. Quit complaining. Just quit complaining.